we'll kick this thing off. You all are a very, very attentive group. I'm impressed. So good morning. Hi, I'm Michael Voss. I'm the Dean of Instruction over the Applied Science Technology programs, the business programs, the CIS programs, and just welcome for taking the time today to spend with us at Mesa Community College. It's great to see students and faculty and so many industry professionals in the room. And we're all here gathered for the inaugural Data Center Operations Day. This is our first one. Yeah. So, success is just making it happen, right? Anytime you're, kind of at the tip of the spear trying something new, you got to be brave enough to make it happen. And so I really want to thank, Ken and a lot of the other folks for organizing this event. But I want to talk about, MCC is strategically positioned to help students gain the skills needed for high-demand careers in the data center industry. Our college is very proud to offer the first certificate of completion in data center operations in the state of Arizona, and it's one of the very few available in the United States. So this program complements our existing computer information systems and automated industrial technology programs. So I'd like to begin by recognizing our incredible industry partners who helped make this program a reality. Organizations like iMasons and AFCOM reached out to Maricopa Community Colleges with a clear vision. They really wanted us to build a local talent pipeline for the fast-growing data center industry here in Arizona. So together with our faculty, they helped design a program that gives students the practical, hands-on training needed to enter these careers ready to contribute on day one. We're also very grateful to AFCOM, EdgeCore, and QTS for their huge generosity, just amazing generosity to provide a combined $48,000 of funding to support student scholarships in the data center operations program. So let's give a hand for that. Additionally, Meta, which has built a data center, they've created the City of Mesa Resident High-Tech Workforce Scholarship with an initial investment of over $100,000, also going towards this program and other related programs. So that's really amazing. I think there's a high recognition that we need to train people in the East Valley to meet the workforce of today. So these funds are designed to remove barriers for the students, right? We know it's a lot to ask of you to put aside your time to come in and train and upskill for these opportunities. So these funds directly support courses like Introduction to Data Centers and Power Distribution Systems. So this program, although very new, is already part of something much larger. It's part of our Automated Industrial Technology program, which currently serves over 460 students and prepares graduates for critical infrastructure roles across manufacturing, automation, and now data centers. Just last year, our AIT program awarded 10 associate degrees and more than 220 certificates of completion. So we are working real hard to get workforce out there, and this is just another thing in that menu that are very now and very relevant. So the addition of the data center operations certificates represents the next evolution of that success. It's helping train the workforce that's needed to keep the digital world running, supporting servers, systems, secure environments that power everything from social media to business operations to cloud computing. So, to all our students here today, this is actually, all this is put together just for you. It's your chance to connect with the industry that's booming right here in Maricopa County. And to our partners, thank you for helping build a bridge between education and employment opportunity. Together, we're ensuring that the future of data center operations is built on a foundation of skilled, local talent. So thank you, and I hope you all enjoy today's event.
Great, thank you, Michael, appreciate it. So let me introduce myself. I'm Brian Darby. I'm Vice President, Strategic Technology Initiatives at QTS Data Centers, and one of the founders of the program and part of what we call the Alliance here in Arizona around a coalition of data center operators that came together to recognize the need for us to get workforce development into our buildings, and that's one of the main things we've been working through. So the team has done an amazing job over the past couple of years, and that's a lot of people have come together and make this really happen. So appreciate everybody's support. So one of the things I want to make sure we're talking through today is getting everybody on the same page. So for the students in the room, I want to make sure you walk away with a clear understanding as to what a data center is. I want to make sure you understand technically what does a data center technician do specifically, and Zane's going to be able to help us talk about that today in our panel. He's with Microsoft. And then also what skills are required to work in a data center. So I want you to walk away with clear understanding as to what we're looking for and what you need to have to work in our data centers. And then finally, a path to becoming a data center technician. So we're going to have an education panel that's going to talk about some of the things we've done in Northern Virginia, but also specifically here as to how we create programming and how we create those classes and curriculum that allow you to work your way into our data center. And that's a lot of what Michael just talked about. So with that said, I want to go ahead and start off with a video that just gets us all on the same page around how we think about data centers and maybe gives a little more clarity and direction as to what a data center is. Hopefully this works for me.
Imagine a world where every swipe, every click, every digital interaction is processed and stored with precision. This is the world of data centers. In essence, data centers are the heart of the digital world, pumping information to where it is needed. Step inside a data center, and you'll find an intricate network of servers, storage devices, and networking equipment. These are the technologies that keep our digital world spinning. Imagine a bustling city where each server is a building, each storage device a warehouse, and each networking equipment a highway. In this city, data flows smoothly from one point to another, meeting user demands with precision. These components work together, forming a powerful system that drives our digital experiences. Data centers are not just about hardware. They are also about people and processes. At the heart of these tech fortresses, we find operational authorities like cybersecurity managers who shield us from digital threats, and data operations specialists who ensure seamless data flow around the clock. These roles are as diverse as they are crucial, each playing a distinct part in maintaining, troubleshooting, and optimizing the complex systems within a data center. These professionals ensure the smooth operation of data centers, safeguarding our digital world. Data centers operate under strict standards, ensuring reliability and efficiency. Key players in this realm are certifying bodies like the Uptime Institute. The significance of uptime certification cannot be overstated, as it's a testament to a data center's operational excellence. Moreover, there's a 4-tier classification system from Tier 1 to 4, rating data centers based on redundancy, fault tolerance, and uptime requirements. So, whether it's a small-scale operation or a complex enterprise-level data center, these standards serve as a guarantee of quality and reliability, ensuring that our digital world never sleeps. Running a data center requires substantial resources, both in terms of energy and water. These digital fortresses consume vast amounts of power to keep servers humming, and even more to cool them down, resulting in significant costs. But it's not all doom and gloom. Many centers are turning to renewable energy sources and implementing water-efficient cooling systems to cut down on their environmental footprint. They're also employing advanced AI to optimize resource usage. Despite their resource-intensive nature, data centers are constantly innovating to become more sustainable and efficient. Beyond general data processing and storage, data centers offer specialized services tailored for different industry needs. These services range from high-performance computing for scientific research to secure data storage for banking and finance. Even sectors like healthcare rely on data centers for storing patient records and running complex diagnostic algorithms. Entertainment industries aren't left out either, with streaming platforms and gaming networks leaning heavily on these technological powerhouses. From healthcare to entertainment, data centers power diverse industries, driving innovation and progress. As we look to the future, one thing is clear. Data centers play a pivotal role in advancing technology. Data centers will continue to be the backbone of our digital age, powering the technologies of tomorrow.
All right, great. Zane, why don't you come on up and let's have a conversation.
In today's fast-paced world, managing time effectively and boosting productivity are essential skills. But did you know that artificial intelligence can be your key to achieving these goals? AI can handle mundane tasks such as data entry, scheduling, and email management. Imagine having an assistant that sorts your emails, schedules your meetings, and prioritizes your to-do list for you. AI systems can analyze vast amounts of data to provide insights and recommendations.
Still running
This
here?
means you can make informed decisions quickly, saving time otherwise spent on manual analysis.
Good morning.
YouTube here.
Check, check.
There we go. All right, sorry about that, a little technical difficulty there, but we worked through it. So glad to have Zane on here. Let me make a point of clarification. I think Ken just brought to make sure. Today is really going to talk about two different sides of the kind of data center world. So I want to be clear, we're going to talk about the IT side, which is going to be around rack and stack and technical pieces like servers and routers and switches and things, and Zane's going to be able to talk a little bit about that. But you also have the certificate program that works and really talks through the electrical mechanical side of the house of running the data center. So there's just two sides of the house I want to make sure we're clearly delineating on. So we're going to talk about both, and a lot of the operators here can shed some light around those things, but just want to delineate that for you to make sure we're on the same page. There's kind of the IT side, which is our rack and stack technicians, and those are the ones that are going to be doing more of the, layer 1, layer 2 type things with Cisco switches, routers, firewalls, and those things at the base level of rack and stack. And then, of course, the building envelope and infrastructure, which is electrical mechanical. So I want to be really clear on that. And again, we're going to have some time at the very end for questions and answers. So thank you, Ken. Good deal. Zane, introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. Really, really blessed to be here, and I'm glad everyone was able to have a good breakfast and be here. Thank you, Brian and Ken, for having me. It's really nice to always speak and help others. But yeah, so my name is Zane Hemmer. I was born and raised here in Phoenix, Arizona. Went to Tulsa Union High School. Went to NEU for a year. Did really good. Ran out of money. Had to come back to Maricopa Community Colleges, but never gave up. Went to Estrella Community College and pursued electrical engineering technology for an associate. So within that time, worked really hard. I was working at Ford as a car technician. Learning just kind of mechanical things, right? Getting those little skill sets, and kind of worked my way into another, AI kind of job called Witron. Got a little skill sets there. Then I got an internship at Intel, and at Intel I was there for about 4.5 years. I learned so much there. Got electrical, mechanical, a lot of schematic training, and just being a leader in general. So from that experience, kind of propelled me to finish my associates, and I got an opportunity at Microsoft. So. I've been at Microsoft about a year now. Currently, I'm still at Arizona State University. I'm about a year and a half out from my electrical engineering degree, so just working really hard. So it's possible, and that's kind of about me. And fun time, I like to box, I like to run, work out, hang out with my friends, things like that. So that's like a little bit about me. So yeah.
Awesome. Love that story. So tell us a little bit. One of the things I remember from our previous panel was you were so tenacious about applying and getting into Microsoft. It was important for you. Talk about that process and how you got into it and what that meant for you.
Yeah, so I was at Intel at the time. So this was about a year ago. It was around July 2024, around there, around August time. So really, essentially, I was trying to grow my career. This was kind of like, as we kind of talk, careers, you're going to have ups and downs, really. You're going to have ups and downs in your career, but you just can't give up. But essentially, during that time in my career, I was like, hey, I want to kind of keep growing myself. So I was like, man, I see a lot of people in the industry, they're struggling with software skills, they're just struggling with, computer skills, things like that. And what I was doing at Intel at the time was kind of doing local area networks, setting them up, things like that. And I didn't really have any certifications for that. And I really just kind of really liked it. So really just networking in general, on top of all the mechanical electrical skills. So I was like, oh, this is actually really interesting. So I was kind of looking in the field, I was looking into certs. Then I found a lot of job postings from Microsoft. And within I don't even know, a 4-month period of that, I just kept applying, throwing my resume, decline. And I was like, man, I gotta keep going. And I kept applying, and just one day, finally, I think it was the last time, it was 15 applications later. But that's kind of how that process went. Really, it was just brute forcing it, just hey, I'm not gonna give up. I'm gonna keep applying, and finally I got that call. So, and that's kind of how it happened. I got the job interview, took 2 weeks to prepare for that, and just, I went through certain Microsoft certifications like the AZ900, cloud fundamentals. I was just trying to get a baseline of what does it take to be in this industry. So I took 2 weeks out of that time, and I was just studying everything I can. My friend Alex over there, he was with me in that process. But yeah, it was pretty crazy, but I never gave up. So that's kind of what happened, and I got the call, I got the job interview, and I absolutely destroyed it. And really just sticking to the basics. It was like, what creates a computer? Like, you got power supply, you know, you need a CPU, you need a motherboard, like things like that, like basic skill sets. And that's how I was able to, you know, show myself in that interview, and that's how I was able to get the job.
That's great, awesome. So talk a little bit about what you do at Microsoft now, a day in the life of a technician.
Oh yeah, so day in the life as a data center technician at Microsoft. So, you know, it's a lot of skill sets, a lot of leadership. So, I mean, I'll talk about yesterday. So yesterday, you know, first thing, get in, right, have my coffee, and essentially I set up a meeting. We have a safety meeting with all my team, probably around 30, 40 people. Run the meeting, we have a certain safety, just kind of a document for safety, like, hey, watch out for electrical hazards, mechanical hazards, chemical hazards, any type of hazards, you know, things like that, you know, moving vehicles. You have like bloom lifts, things going on, especially in construction sites. So really you're running a meeting in the morning. You're going over priorities like, hey, what do we need to get done at data center today? What work orders do we have to do? And you also have to you have a team of people that you're working with. So essentially, as a leader, you got to be like, okay, I have 4 guys over here. I have 4 people over here. Okay, you guys are going to work on the servers over here. You're going to work on this project over here. So you got to kind of build a team to kind of attack these priorities throughout the day. So that's kind of the first thing in the morning, is just kind of creating your teams, understand what needs to be done in the day. Then you're kind of looking through work orders, and you're looking through work orders and saying, okay, what do we need to do? You know, and you're working with engineering at the same time. It could be via person, it could be, you know, through teams, and things like that. So when you are in the field, you know, we have, you know, server racks, things like that. So really, you're just kind of checking, you're doing like rounds of readings. You're checking, okay, is servers online? How's the power situation looking? Are they redundantly powered, right? Do we have any failed power supplies? Because if we have one line go down, we're going to have that server go down, and we're going to lose some, you know, some uptime for a customer. We don't want that. That's a no-no. So things like that. So then throughout the day, you know, you have your lunch. You're, you know, collaborating with your team. You're tagging along. You're moving things around. But really, essentially, you're working on servers, right? You're looking at switches. You're looking at routers, right? You're looking at power situations. You're working with critical environment, right? They need to do a bus tab replacement, which is like, bus tab replacement is a certain circuit that powers a rack, which we're not certified on the IT side to do that. Critical environment, they are more higher voltage certified, things like that. So kind of like working with different teams, right? I'm working with engineering team, working with CE team. I'm working with management, right? I'm working with other data centers. I'm working with different partners, vendors. I know for our particular situation lately, we're working with newer technology, working with some chemical, things like that. And we got to think about chemical hazards, right? Hey, we do have the right PPE on, right? Is my team set up with the correct PPE? Do they have face shields? Do they have right electrical, you know, gloves? Are they able to touch that? Is it de-energized? Do we have lockout, tagout? Right? These are all the things I'm thinking about every day, every single day, because we're not doing nothing unless it's safe, and that's number one. And I mean, throughout the day, it's really just conquering. We call it killing the queue. So we have certain tickets in the queue, and we just want to get the task done. We want to make sure the data center is running, make sure the cloud is running, make sure Xbox Live is running, making sure, you know, our engineers are good, making sure the software runs. So really, every day you're using so many skill sets, but it's going to take time to really gain those. So really, it's just like mechanical skills, electrical skills, programming skills, chemical skills, leadership skills, know how to manage your time. There's a lot of skill sets throughout a normal day. So I would say, like, that's kind of like a daily day for me.
Yeah, wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, and Xbox can't go down. So
No, we don't want Modern
stays up.
Warfare going down.
Yeah, you
no.
don't want that to happen. So you talked about a couple things. You talked about the technical skill sets of what you had to do, but it's also the soft skills, and that's what I heard, and how important that is, right? Collaboration, communication, documentation. Talk about that.
Yeah, so soft skills for sure. I mean, even right now, public speaking, right? These are the skill sets you need to really be if you want to be, I want to say successful, but if you want to really grow in your career, having those soft skills, especially running a meeting, right? You could be super technical, but if you cannot run a meeting, if you can't show those skill sets, like technically, and you can't teach it, it kind of limits you a little bit. So I would say, like, kind of being balanced, right? So I think, you know, get yourself out there. So like yesterday, I teamed my team, like, hey, I'm gonna run the meeting today, right? Things like that. Get yourself out there, especially like networking events like this. You want to kind of, you know, have a voice, right? And having these soft skills, and like you can do like Toastmasters. There's so many different clubs and stuff you can do. But like skill sets, you have to balance between the technical and the soft skills, and I feel like you put them together, you're going to be really, really good. I feel like that would be good.
Good, love that. So you gave me a couple things that you had done well, some successes and failures. So we're going to bring those up on the screen. You're still good with that, right?
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
All right, let's talk about them.
Oh, yeah.
There we go.
Yes.
So
All right.
your wins and your failures, and it's really failures aren't failures, they're learning experience, right, and learning opportunities. So you were very vulnerable about this, and I appreciate it. So why don't you talk us through some of these?
Yeah, I mean, starting off, I mean, I wasn't the best student for sure. You know, I was working a lot, you know, taking a lot of classes, you know, time management. Everyone kind of goes through it. But I know, yeah, I started off from Starbucks. You know, I worked as a car tech. You know, I was working with hot oil. I was going straight from work to school at night and doing, you know, differential equations, you know, engineering classwork, things like that. It wasn't easy. I know I you know, had some classes I failed. I had to retake them and really just kept going. I never really stopped. Never let the GPA, you know, let me, you know, who I am and things like that. And I just kept working. I kept working my partners. I kept working my teachers. I kept working in the industry. And really, I also focused, you know, through these failures, it really kind of propelled me like, hey, I know what it takes, right? I know what it, you know, I got to keep going, right? The certifications, I got to keep going for the certifications. I know the clubs that I went to were very awesome. Like I know I was at like a NASA club for a little bit, L Space Academy. That was amazing. We flew out to Houston, got to meet some people over there. I know that, you know, we did a lot of STEM projects, working on drones, get to work on programming skills, CADing. CADing skills is another one. Just like really just having all these skill sets. But I know like for wins wise, those little moments kind of propel me and stay ready for the opportunity, right? So if I can go to the interview, be like, hey, I know how to program. I know Python. Right? Oh, I can do that. You know, I can do electrical skills. I know how to trace a schematic because I did that at Intel. Things like that. Using highlighters and actually sit down and trace a circuit. And I'm looking at a circuit saying, hey, what are my lockout, tagout points so I can de-energize a circuit to work on this broken component? Things like that. So those are the little things in the industry that they're going to see and be like, oh, he knows what he's talking about. So things like that. I say wins-wise, you know, I say my failures, you know, of course, like, you know, I had to starting over from NAU, you know, I had good grades, had ran out of money, things like that. So I never gave up. I came back here, got my job back at Ford, kept working, and I know I went right back to school. Right back to school, I kept going. You know, the classes were here and there, B and C's. I had a couple classes at hard, so I was working like, you know, 50-some hours a week, things like that. But, you know, I just kept going. What else? I know failure-wise, I mean, it's just working hard. I really, you know, just, you know, getting decline in applications, you know, certain things like that. But I always took it as like, oh, I just got to keep going. I got to keep learning. It just means I got to get better. So that's kind of like, you know, throughout that process.
That's great. I love that. So you having those life situations are things that we all experience, right? So students that are out here thinking they can't do it, or they are having too many challenges, or this isn't something they can do. You mentioned you ran out of money.
Oh, yeah.
So those real life situations and circumstances. So it's something in which I want you to learn from his experiences and his lessons as to how to keep persisting, right? Keep going, keep pushing, and achieve your goal. And now he's at Microsoft. So amazing story, and I love the way you tell it and talk about it. And you're so open around that. You and I have done this a few times, and it's just,
Yes, sir.
I just appreciate you more and more every time because it's a great story, and it really is, you know, just a testament to your persistence and your wanting and desire to be in the data center industry. And I think you've got where you want to be. So
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, just, you know, the students here today, like, you got to really put in perspective how big this is growing as an industry. It's really the pinnacle of where we're going in the future, especially in the STEM field. Because, you know, you could look at Intel, you look at the CPUs, everything, they're building it for data centers, right? Everything is looking back to, you know, AI, right? This is kind of where we're going. So really having a skill set of like, okay, I have a basic of electrical skills, I have a basic of maybe some programming skills, especially depending on what you're doing in the STEM field. But really, you got to kind of come back to like where it's at and where the pinnacle is. And I think having understanding of that, I know one thing too I'm gonna throw out there: read a lot of books. Like read a lot of books. Just like read books. It really helps. You know, I call it sharpening the axe time. So it's like if I'm driving home, have an audio book, I'm listening. I'm always trying to get better. You know, I listen to music when I'm at the gym only. Things like that. I think you kind of come into like a scenario like today, and you're already gonna have that mindset, and people are gonna notice. You're gonna be magnetic. So I think if you do that, you're going to be great.
Yeah, love that. I was going to tee you up for it, but you already said it.
Yeah,
What next steps, or what do you think they should be? What advice would you give to young students? And that was one great piece of advice. Any other?
Yeah. So like reading books, I would say, you know, get yourself around a good study team, right? Get yourself around a good team, right? I would, you know, go to every event you can do. You know, go to a resume build shop. Go to a networking event just like this. I would look at certifications, right? If you're trying to do like, you know, Microsoft, trying to work for an administration for cloud, look at the AZ900 certs, the MS900 certs. If you're trying to do more networking and trying to get more to IT, you look at the CompTIA, especially the CCNA, things like that. You get those certs, you're already like 95% ahead of the game. and you take those certifications and the education, you pair it up with the experience, you're going to be so valuable. I think really it's just setting your life up and just kind of make it like, okay, I'm going to do this today. I'm going to hit the gym here today. I'm going to read this book today. Okay, I'm going to knock this homework assignment out. You just kind of do that and just have fun as you go. But I think, yeah, if you do that, you're going to be so ahead of the game, 100%. So that's kind of what I would say.
That's great. I'm going to take a question or two if there are any.
Any questions?
For Zane, any questions for him specifically? We are going to have some Q&A at the end if we don't get you now, but sorry about that, Ken. I got you running here, running mics.
You're good. Got a question right here? Yeah, go ahead.
What books would you recommend reading?
Yeah, so I would say, recently, throughout the week, I'm reading The Compound Effect. That's a good one. I would say...
Dan Hardy?
Yeah, Dan Hardy. That's an amazing book, right? You compound your habits. I would say, there's just all types of, self-development books. I would say Compound Effect is one, How to Win Influence People. There's just so much out there. Do Hard Things is another one. Really, I'm just thinking of the books I've read throughout the year, going back. There's just so much. Really, just self-development books in general. I would also look into tactical books as well, because all it is just supplemental information that goes with your schooling and your certification is just going to build that mentality to be successful. So I think that's kind of...
Love that. So it's not just around the technical skills that you can get at the college level. It's self-learning. It's creating good habits. It's just wanting to have and do more, be better. And that's a great example of what you've done. So Zane, this
100%.
is amazing. So
Thank you.
Love the conversation. Always enjoy it. And you just always show up, man, and drop gems for everybody. So just
Yes, sir.
appreciate you today.
Yeah.
So thank you, guys. Or
Yeah.
thank you, Zane.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Good deal. All right, let's jump to our next topic here. Alexandra, she is going to come up and talk about some of the things that are happening in Arizona. She's going to give us a market readout. Do you have music on yours? I guess. Yeah, maybe not. Okay. You could sing something. I'm going to turn it over to you. Okay. Do you want to stand here? Or you want your own mic?
Oh, I'm a walker.
You're a walker. Okay.
Yeah.
Go for it.
And then to move it, just a little
Nod
arrow
me.
right there.
You can nod me and I'll do it, or you can do it.
Oh, I'll nod you. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Brian. Cool. All right. Good morning, everyone. I hope we're all doing great. My name is Alexandra Desson. I work for a company called DC Byte as the America's Research Manager. What does that mean? I oversee the research department for Canada, US, and Latin America. And before we get into it, I just kind of want to give a bit more of a background as to how I got into this industry, because I graduated in 2022 from Appalachian State University with a bachelor's in environmental economics and policy. And when I graduated, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I just knew that I didn't want to hate my job. I wanted to make decent money, and if I could travel, that would be awesome. And so after college, I did a multitude of various things, working in West Virginia in the forest, living out my car, going cross country, working at hostels. I worked at an insurance company, and I finally got to a point where I realized I wanted to set a strong foundation for my future. And I've always been a hippie businesswoman. I love people, I love analytics, and I just started applying for as many analytical jobs as I could find. And I randomly found myself with this company. I started as a research analyst covering the Southwest region, and very quickly moved up through senior research analyst to now research manager. I bring this up because this industry, as we've touched on briefly, has so much opportunity. A lot of the workforce is looking to retire within the next 5 years, and Phoenix especially has such a large market for the data center industry and is continuing to grow. And I also bring it up for a second reason of everyone that you talk to currently in the industry got here accidentally, for the most part. I want it to turn from being an accident to being a choice, and I think you guys are already taking a good step in that direction. So just wanted to give you guys kudos for recognizing that. Yeah, DC Byte. So Brian brought me here today just to give a high-level overview of what's going on in this market. Why I'm kind of in a position to do that is DC Byte covers over 8,000 data centers in the world, and we look at their development stage, who their suppliers are, and we go very granular with it. But I don't want to focus too much on that. I'd rather get into What is a data center? Why are they a big deal? Brian's video was pretty good about that. It's basically anytime that you do a internet search, utilize AI, Gemini, ChatGPT, Copilot, anytime you stream something on Netflix, that's going through a data center. So it is called critical infrastructure, mission critical, because as well, things like the gaming industry, healthcare, things of that nature also go through there. And so you'll hear some people mention downtime, uptime, and so it's very important that these facilities are kept running at all times. But going into why Phoenix. Phoenix is what we call a primary market. In the industry, you have primary markets, secondary, and tertiary. Primary markets are going to be those established hubs. Secondary are going to be the ones that are growing and expanding and trying to catch up to those. And tertiary are going to be those edge markets. They're these smaller hubs that don't have too much going on as of yet, but they're still noticeable. But Phoenix in particular is a really great market because you guys have low natural disaster risk. So you don't really see hurricanes, floods, volcanic eruptions. That one you don't see really anywhere, but I like to include it. Also, you guys have a lot of affordable and available land. So I actually live in Washington, D.C., where that is the data center capital of the world. And they do not have a lot of land left. And if they do, it is very expensive. And so the fact that you guys have these large land parcels that do have access to this power and that is somewhat affordable is huge. Another thing is you guys' proximity to those major West Coast hubs, like in California and Nevada, and you also have that lower latency to those Southwest markets. And so you guys have a very well-connected system here. Another thing is going to be the growing interest in renewable energy. Arizona is great with this. I'm going to touch on more of these, so I don't want to go into too much detail, but solar, you guys have a lot of sun, so you have access to that. But Arizona has been growing. It overtook California a year and a half ago as we saw that California migration. You had some issues with California having access to reliable power, the water sentiment around the community, and so you're not really seeing that here. And so going into, no, that was perfect, good job. So going into the total Arizona supply, this was the beginning of Q1 2025, what DC Byte was tracking. So earlier I mentioned that we break it down into development phases, and in the industry, we love our definitions, we love our acronyms, and everyone has a different one, but at DC Byte, we break it down into these four. Starting with early stage, these are the earliest ideation of these projects, kind of like the discussion. This can be anyone trying to get into the market, announcing a new project that they're excited about, but we don't move it into committed until they have three things secured. That is power, permitting, and land. Those are three very critical things to get for a project to move forward. The next stage is under construction. This is not just when those cute fences go up with all of the logos around them. It's actually activity occurring at the site. And so that's when you have the site prep, you have the steel beams, the tilt walls, the M&E infrastructure being put in. Lastly is live IT. You'll hear this be RFS, live, operational. Once again, we love our terms. But this is when it is up and running. And so here you can see that a big chunk of the supply at the beginning of the year was in early stage. So that just shows the growth that is still coming into this market and the opportunity that there is here. Another thing I want to mention is just the difference between utility power and critical IT load, because this is the most that data centers have been in the news, I think, ever due to the AI boom. And you are going to hear these massive projects being announced, 1 gigawatt, 500 megawatts. And when I joined 2 years ago, 20 to 50 megawatts was still a big deal. And so it has increased dramatically in a very short period of time. And so utility is going to be the total power for that site. It's not going to be just for the data halls, it's going to be powering all of those secondary measures as well, whereas the critical IT load is directly for those data halls. And so that's what these numbers reflect here. But if we move on to the next one, what's being built now? So this is actually a photo of Meta's site over in Mesa. And the reason why I included that photo is AI-driven demand. You guys have so much being built in this market, and a lot of it is being driven by the hyperscalers, their cloud, their AI designs. Meta, as an example, they had a traditional H build that they would do, and then they introduced a longer singular building for AI specifically with a higher rack density. And then recently, if you guys have seen in the news, they announced Project Hyperion, Prometheus, which are those tent-like builds. And so within not even a year, they have redesigned and just pushed the envelope with that. Another thing is NVIDIA and GPUs. Has anyone ever heard of NVIDIA? I'm assuming you guys are tech folks. You guys are so impressive.
We own the stock.
So, yeah. Oh, man. But see, I hope this is okay, but I relate them to being like the Apple of chips because they're constantly redesigning and re-announcing new designs. And actually tying it into Apple, I got a new phone the other day. I upgraded. Whoop. I had the iPhone 14 Pro, and I just got the iPhone 17 Pro. And the reason why I mention that is because when I was in the Verizon store, it actually mentioned GPUs as part of the statistics when comparing phone models. And I before would have never paid mind to that, but I thought it was super intriguing that they mentioned that. And if anyone's wondering, the iPhone 17 Pro is 2 times faster than the iPhone 14 Pro. I'm not a, I wasn't paid to say that, but. So the other thing is renewable energy integration. So we touched on that. Phoenix is really good with bringing in new sources of power. One of them is the Sonoran Solar Energy Center. I have the numbers, but I believe they have 250 megawatts of solar power and then an additional 700, I think, of battery storage capacity, and it is operational now, and it actually helps power sites such as Google's, and is really good with boosting Phoenix's renewable energy status within the United States. SRP, they've also signed on to try to bring 7 gigawatts of solar capacity to the market, and nuclear. So this is another reason why I believe that data centers have been brought into the limelight now more than ever, is because this, scary word has been brought up. When you actually look into it, it is a very clean source of energy. And a lot of people have been talking about it for quite a while, but it's being brought up more and more. And like I said, I went to school for environmental policy. I understand that policy takes a long time to change. You have to get a lot of different people's sign-offs, a lot of paperwork. And so nuclear, though, APS, SRP, and TEP actually did they're working together to bring nuclear to Phoenix. And site selection, they're hoping for the 2030s to have one approved. And by the 2040s, they're looking for those to be operational. So super exciting. You don't really hear about that in other markets. And so Phoenix is really making their standout footprint with nuclear and just how serious they are about continuing to support this industry.
Alexander, one question. I just
Yeah.
want you to level set with everybody as to what a hyperscaler is, just so everybody knows.
Yeah, so beautiful. So within the data center industry, you kind of have hyperscalers and then co-location providers. And you also have 3 different kind of builds. So you have self-build, colo, and then build to suit. Hyperscalers are those household names. Microsoft, Meta, Google, AWS, they are kind of considered the big dogs. They have the financial backing, the relationships secured, and the just funding and vision and the team built to get these large projects underway. And so it's really important to track what these guys are doing, and maybe you talk to Zane more about this and figure some things out, and then you come talk to me afterwards. But whenever they enter a market, that's kind of a big deal because then you see these smaller players, quote unquote, co-location guys following suit because as I mentioned before, Phoenix is very well connected. That has to do with fiber connectivity. You guys have reliable power thanks to the utility guys, but not all markets have access to those. And so when a hyperscaler enters a new market, they then undertake the implementing of those new fiber routes, right? and going through those hurdles of making it a good location to build. And so when you see those hyperscalers enter somewhere, then usually you'll see some other projects follow suit. Another way, so my company, every single analyst that I've hired has had no experience in the data center industry. And so I actually have quite a few resources, if you guys want them, that I can share that go into who hyperscalers are, what those different types of builds are, and just really helpful definitions, which on the next slide, if you want, oh, it's on the last slide, but it's my information, so you can email me if you want. But if you go back to that one, why this matters for you. So we're all here and you're all here because we want you guys to have a solid, successful future, right? And as we've mentioned, data centers are critical to every industry. They're not going anywhere. They need someone to build them, someone to manage them. And you have so many different career paths in this industry. I love this space. I brought up an image from our platform where, as I mentioned, we track suppliers. That can be anything as who has done the generators for that site, the cooling infrastructure, real estate, who was the one that sold that site, the GC, M&E, civil engineer, and architect. And so there's so many different routes that you can go to enter into this industry. But at the end of it all, everything is connected to this, and it's not going anywhere. So I think, to echo Zane, work on your hard skills, work on those soft skills, really fine-tune them, and always be a student. Always be a sponge, ask questions, understand you're never gonna be the smartest in the room, and that is a really exciting thing because it's only room for growth. And now we can go to the last one. That's my email. I am busy sometimes, but I will respond to you, I promise. If you want to reach out and just ask any questions about how to enter this field, if you're interested in any of those definitions or about local events going on, I'm so happy to help out with that. And I just want to thank Brian and everyone here for welcoming me, and I hope we have just a successful rest of the day.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Alexander, we have time for a few questions.
Oh.
So maybe we'll take a question or two now.
Yeah.
And that way we will have time at the very end, but I do have a question for you.
Okay.
I was going to ask you how Phoenix and the renewable compares. So you said SRP has 7 gigawatts of solar. How does that
Yeah.
compare to other cities?
Oh gosh. So you guys are one of the leading markets for renewable energy. Oklahoma, they have a good bit as far as wind farms go. Texas has a few projects underway as well. But Phoenix is, I believe, in the top 5 states in the US for renewable energy. You guys also differ from a lot of other markets where something that we're seeing is people bringing the power directly to their sites. So what you used to see is people would put in a bid for 20 megawatts to the local utility company, and you would get access to that within 3 to 6 months. Now people are putting in 500 megawatts, those gigawatt requests, and it's pushing that pipeline out 15, 16 months. And so now what we're seeing is people bringing on-site power and doing a mix of different renewable energy as well to back up what they're looking for. So that can be solar, battery power, wind. And so you guys are in the top 5 for renewable energy. And I believe you guys have many more projects in the works other than the ones that I have listed here. But that is something that sets you guys apart, and I think also lends to the current market prices and just the robustness of the demand in the pipeline for you.
Awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you. Any other questions? Come on. Don't be shy.
No, beautiful. That means that I covered a lot.
It means you gave a
You're just
great
processing
presentation.
it. I love it.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thanks,
Thank you so
guys.
much. Thank you. All right, we're going to bring, oops, come on up again. Great, we're going to jump right into education next, and I got a great panel of folks that are going to come up and help us talk through education and some of the programming that we built. Come on up, Ken and Beth, Chris. Jesse's not here today, but Ryan is going to come up, and Conrad as well. Let's see if we can get. Yeah, you don't have to. Let's see, I don't have enough mics, so you guys may have to share. Yeah, you guys will pass the mics around. Awesome. Here we go. Oh, there you go. All right, good deal. This is the all-star panel. I'm just going to sit up here and ask questions. So good stuff. Let's start off the very end with Ryan. Start introducing yourself. Work your way down.
All right, Ryan Gruber. So I am the director of all the data centers, low voltage, and edge sites over at Banner Health, and I also serve as the AFCOM Arizona chapter president.
I'm Ken Ackler at Mesa Community College. I'm with the Automated Industrial Technology program. I'm faculty and program director. I worked with this group, some people in this group, and some people are not here, to put together the data center operations program that we have here at Mesa in both Australia Community College on the west side.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dr. Conrad De La Cruz. I'm a CIS faculty here at Mesa Community College. And I'm primarily in the cybersecurity space, but I'm a late add to this panel, so I'm also going to be talking about networking.
Should I
Oh, either way.
do both of them?
You got two of them.
Hi, I'm Beth Sacconi. I work for EdgeCore Digital Infrastructure. I am the Knowledge and Proficiency Specialist, which is really just a fancy title for training and development. I have a background in education. I helped to develop the curriculum at Nova Community College in Northern Virginia, and then I career switched into data centers, so I actually was a technician. Kind of did some other things that I'll talk about in a little bit, and now I get to work for EdgeCore doing what I absolutely love, which is the training development for our operations team.
Hi, everyone. Chris Dove, Stream Data Centers. I'm the Director of Talent Acquisition there, and I've spent the last 8 years doing about everything that I can to get more people into the data center industry. I didn't know about data centers 8 years ago. I was one of those people that accidentally fell into it. But now that I know about all the opportunities, I like to tell everybody that I can, including my Uber driver this morning, who actually turned out to be a Navy electrician's mate. So maybe he will end up getting a career in data centers. That's where I cut my teeth in mission critical work. I'm a former Navy nuclear submariner. Got out of the Navy back in 2015, and my life's mission right now is just to share this knowledge with as many people as we can, because Alexandra mentioned, in the next 5 years, we have a lot of people that we're calling it the silver tsunami. 77% of the people that have been in the industry for over 10 years will be exiting the industry in the next 5 years. So there is going to be, I think there's, like Zane said, there's an endless amount of opportunities, it feels like right now. Imagine when those people are, riding off into the sunset, into their retirement, all the avenues that are going to open up. What I love about this industry the most is it doesn't matter where you came from. None of us have a degree in data centers, right? It really doesn't matter what walk of life you come from. It's all about getting that first position. And as Alexandra highlighted, right, there's policy, there's analytics, there's accounting. You can start anywhere in this industry and move out to really wherever you want to go.
Awesome, love that. Chris is always recruiting. Love that. So we will have an Uber driver in the data center world here soon. So Beth, I want to start with you. First of all, you came out from Virginia, so thank you for that, traveling across the country here to be with us. So you and your husband are legendary for what you started, and we built a program here in Arizona based upon what you guys did in Northern Virginia. So I'd love for you to talk about how that got started, what was the genesis behind that, just kind of share with us.
Sure. So my husband's name is TJ Sacconi. He is, as I have heard, LinkedIn famous. I actually worked at AWS for a period of time, and while I was in the cafeteria area there, somebody walked up to me and said, "Oh my gosh, are you married to TJ?" And I said, "Yeah, how do you know him?" They're like, "We don't. He's just LinkedIn famous." And I thought, oh my goodness, that's going to go to his head. But I don't know, it's probably been about 7-8 years ago, Northern Virginia, obviously, as someone has already mentioned, I think a few of you mentioned, is just one of the data center hubs. I mean, it is insane how many data centers we have there. It's called Data Center Capital of the World, and there's Data Center Alley. But obviously there was a need for us to build some curriculum to really develop the education piece, to build that pipeline into the data center industry there and how to get operations technicians out into those much needed spaces. So they approached my husband, who was in the data center industry. He's been in there for about 15 years now to help build curriculum. And he looked at them and said, I don't know how to build curriculum. I know how to talk about data centers, I know how to teach it, but I don't really know how to build the curriculum, so they hired me. So I have, I was actually a health and PE teacher. So if you had fun in PE in any elementary, middle school, high school, there you go. I got my master's in education then because I really did want to actually build more curriculum as a career. And they hired me, Northern Virginia Community College hired me to help him develop the curriculum. So that's still being taught to this day, and even after we turned that process over to Nova, they looked at him and said, hey, could you also help teach it? And he was like, you're kidding. I have a full-time job. What are you talking about? And here we are now 7, 8 years later, and he is still teaching it. And we have just found that as time has gone on, the more that we're able to grab those students and bring them into the community colleges, the more that we understand about data centers and the need for this workforce and how it's right here, the opportunities are in your backyard. That's what helped to transpire some of that into what's being built here. I don't know if you want me to go into any more details, but that's pretty much where it started for us, and I know that helped to transpire into what's being built here now.
That's great. That's a great story, and it is. We actually, and Ken, I'm going to ask you, we actually, when we started the program with Therese and others, we actually reached out to you. You reached out to TJ directly. Tell us about that.
Right. So we were approached, Maricopa, Dean Foster this morning said, I set my Masons, and then so Ryan and Brian and a few others that are not here today, we worked together on pulling together, and so they came to us and said they had this program out in Northern Virginia, and we looked at the content out there, and we implemented 2 new classes here on top of 6 our existing automated industrial technology classes. And one of those was Intro to Data Centers, which TJ and Beth put together. And so it was a little bit different format, but I worked with TJ. He gave me the manual that we're using for that. And then we kind of put our class together, and then TJ was actually working on an online version, and I'd put all the quizzes in and I sent him all the quiz questions so he didn't have to repeat them, to put them in the, kind of help each other across. So, but what was nice about it didn't have to start from scratch. We already had a footprint that was going out there. This is a successful program. And we didn't 100% mirror that, but very close, and we were able to get it up to speed very quickly because of help from the community of education and people who'd already put work in.
Yeah, that's a great story, and I think it really shows the commitment and caring and wanting to collaborate with Northern Virginia, so we appreciate that, and Ken did an awesome job of getting our certificate program up and operational. So Ken, talk a little bit about that. Maybe you and Conrad can talk about the actual classes, the 8-class certificate, kind of what we're doing, what we're seeing.
Right, so our automated industrial technology program, we train technicians to install, maintain, troubleshoot, repair, and do modifications to automated systems or what we call facilities. In data centers, they say operations. Many companies will call that facilities. It's keeping the buildings up and running, the power, everything around that. And with data centers or a hospital or a utility, it's a critical infrastructure, meaning you can't go down, right? It's 7/24. If a hospital goes down, people die, right? Same thing if you lose our data. So what's nice about our, I'm going to say AIT, the abbreviation for it, is it's a really good base, and we've actually used it for semiconductor, we used it for data center. So there's 11 classes. We were able to take 6 of those existing and create these 2 new courses to bolt onto that. And what's really nice about this data center certificate, even though we call it data center operations, you could get that certificate to help you get into a hospital. I know we're promoting data centers. My point is that it's very universal. Just like the core automated AIT program is, this is every facility out there has to have people supporting that. It's just right now, there's way more jobs in the data centers than there are in a lot of these other areas, right?
Yeah, that's great. So it's an 8-class certificate, just to be clear. The 2 classes we bolted on were the Intro to Data Center class and I think the Power Distribution class. And then
So
the
yeah,
others-
so the A class is the safety, there's modern maintenance, which just teach you how to be a maintenance technician overall. A mechanical class where you learn everything about it. We use laser alignment tools, how you would connect a motor up to a generator or a machine. First level electrical, AC and DC, and then we get into the 200, those are 100, 200, and you learn everything about motors, whether it's DC or AC motors, this thing called motor controls, and that's, you have to have these devices to be able to turn the motors on. And then we've got what's called a programmable logic controller. That's an industrial controller that runs machines, and some plants use them to run their HVAC systems, some don't. And then we've got this power distribution course. So it's very well rounded to help you be able to be successful. So, and it's very hands-on. So when we come in, you have 2.5 to 3 hours of hands-on in all the classes except for the Intro to Data Center. Intro to Data Center is more of an information, and then we actually go to site visit. We go to 3 to 4 data centers in that class, so you actually get to see what it looks like in the environment you might work at.
Yeah, that's great. So let me ask a question I know the answer to, but I want you to explain, or maybe Chris can take this one. Here, Chris, what's the importance of us having that Intro to Data Center class, but doing the tours of going out to those data centers and maybe getting firsthand view of what a data center is for those students?
Yeah, for those of you that have never been in a data center, it's a real treat. You know, from the outside looking in, they just look like boring, giant gray boxes, right? I think that's one thing we can do better in the industry is make them a little bit more eye-appealing, maybe a little bit more colorful. But the moment you step into that data center environment, you really feel the energy, right? You get a sense of what 24/7, 365 critical operations really is. And you know, even after all this time in the industry, I still say, you know, the operational tempo of a data center, being online 24/7, 365 for everyone, will make a fool out of anyone. But when you walk in and you see the security desk and the levels of security that go into a data center, right? So it's funny, once you walk into the lobby, you've already actually gone through a couple of the layers of security. But even in that lobby, right, you need a badge for sure to get in. And you know, the security systems look like something, you guys might be too young for this, but does anybody remember the show The Jetsons? Right, the Jetsons, very futuristic. You walk into these pods and you feel like you remember the bank things. You would put the bank thing in and it would shoot you up, right? So you're in this glass pod and you're waiting for the doors to let you in, but seeing it firsthand, right? So back to Alexander's point about hyperscale co-location and things. Co-locators are really just building a giant warehouse. And then, you know, you might have 10 smaller warehouses inside of it. Those warehouses are blank data halls, right? A customer can come in and you know, order any service that they want from you, and that's your space. So really the co-location companies become, you know, the landlord for those tenants. So, you know, behind that door of that data center that you're touring, it could be Uber Technologies. Maybe that's who's helping you get around. It could be your, you know, Xbox Live backup redundant system is in, you know, that data hall, and it's just fascinating to see and feel that energy inside the data center.
Great. Thank you, Chris, for making me feel old, because I do remember the Jetsons. Appreciate that. Good job. So Beth, I want to point to you because you actually came out of education. You're in the technology now. I want to talk to the ladies here about getting into data centers, because I would love to see more women in data centers. So help us understand kind of what that's like for you and your experiences, and what do you say to ladies who are interested in getting into data centers?
Sure, no, that's great. So just to follow up with what I was mentioning before, so like I had mentioned before, I was in education. And when I decided to transition into this industry, my husband actually said, why don't you take the data center class? I'm like, the one that I helped to create? And he was like, yeah. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. And so COVID hit, and I decided, you know what, I really do want to kind of transition, and now's probably a good time. So I took the class, and I still was like, I'm not sure about this. But I lucked out that I had a data center company looking for a student. Primarily, they were looking for a diverse student, and they were looking for females. And I just happened to be one of the only students that was like, hey, I'll apply for it. I sat through a 6-hour interview. But basically, it was more just somebody talking the whole time, and that was okay. And I just listened, and I had a smile on my face. And they laughed about it afterwards and said, hey, you survived a 6-hour interview. You definitely have the job. So I got into the industry, and I will say for anybody that's a female trying to enter the industry, you might be a little intimidated because you might think it is more male dominated, and guess what? Yep, it has been. But what I will say is that it is so welcoming. It is more like we just want anyone and everyone who is willing to come in through those doors and be willing to learn and put in the hard work. It does not matter anything else. And so if you're interested at all in the industry, and maybe you might not think, hey, I'm super technical, that is okay. They'll teach you. And if you come into the industry and then you start working as a technician like I did, and then they realize, hey, you have some other really cool skill sets. Oh, you used to be a teacher. Hey, can you help with some training and development? Oh, hey, you seem to be really organized. Can you help with vendor management? There is a lot of other skills that transfer, and then you never know where your career is gonna go. I left from being a technician, that was my first role in the industry, to becoming a coordinator at AWS, which I did for 3 years. And so basically that was all more of the soft skills, the vendor management, the time management, connecting, how to cross over between teams. So, for females, but really for anybody, if you just wanna get your foot in the door, be willing to learn, be a sponge. I think Alexandra already mentioned that as well, right? Put in the hard work, and you never know where it's gonna take you.
That was great. Love that answer. Chris, did you have anything you wanted to add to that? Or
Thank you for noticing. So I did just want to say, wonderful women like Beth have so many organizations that are very, women oriented. You have WIMCO, you have the women's, division of the iMasons. Like, we need more great women like Beth, in this industry, because they bring a whole other side of ideas, right? They have a whole different way of thinking about things, and that goes for all of you. All of us that know how data centers evolved, right? That's stuck in our brain, and that's still layered in there. All of you that don't even know anything about it now, when you learn, you're gonna come up with new ideas. You're gonna ask, oh, why have they always done it that way? Why don't they do it this way, right? And us older people, we can't think that way anymore, right? You know that old adage, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. You can teach us some new tricks, but you guys are gonna come up with the really creative, groundbreaking ideas. And the same thing goes for women. The more angles of every problem that we can troubleshoot, the better the solutions are going to be. And yeah, that's just what I wanted to add.
awesome. Ryan?
I'll pay you later for saying those nice things about me too, okay?
Ryan, I know you've got experience in that as well. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So definitely one of the big things that I've done in my own data center. So again, you mentioned the silver tsunami. So I was once the kid on the team, and the kid leader, by the way, with 50, 60s, and 70s above me. So one thing that I've been doing in my own data centers, and just to note, so I'm more of an enterprise player. So I don't hire the master staffs that the operators hire, the hyperscales, et cetera. My core is only 18 personnel. So, but one thing that I look for is looking for kind of that younger, diverse talent. I brought in through my own internship program, because I can't participate. AFCOM's got an internship program, but I can't tap into my own, so I have to use the Banner internship program. But I brought in young women, I brought in people of various cultures, and it's been actually just phenomenal to see how they couldn't spell data center, but when I hired them, it's like, I don't care if you can't spell data center, you're just passionate, you want to learn about data centers and what we do, and it actually worked out really, really well. And I believe actually a few of them have gone on to actually do into the data center career. I've actually brought in a couple of our actual AFCOM interns recently, so the ones that from the prior round, so brought them in. But again, it's great to see these people, their faces light up and show, hey, there's a real career here, because like everybody else, I fell in the data centers. I didn't know how to spell a data center when I entered it. I was a software engineer, but it's been the best thing I've done in my career.
Awesome, love that. So Ryan, one of the things, you do work at an enterprise, so maybe give us a little bit of what is a day in life of an enterprise a technician at an enterprise data center.
Okay, so day in the life of an enterprise technician. So it's definitely a little bit different. So where we were talking about earlier, where the operators, the hyperscalers, et cetera, it's very clear-cut lanes. It's like you're working on electrical or mechanical or the white space or something like that. We do a little bit of all of it. I've got guys that we'll rack and stack servers in the morning, and then we're changing out UPSs in the afternoon. You have to have more of a very diverse skill set. So, I mean, personally, I started on the IT side. I was an operator on the NOC, so, and I'll spell that out. So Network Operations Center. That's the 24/7 eyes in the sky, watching apps and the building management system and all that. So that was my first role. Then I went into the white space, doing rack and stack. And when we built our new data center, I actually did a lot of the designs of the actual the data halls, the cabling layouts, all that. And then moving up into leadership, I had to go learn the gray space, UPSs, cooling, CFD analysis, BMSs. It's you kind of have to be a bit more of a jack of all trades. I'll say because our facilities organization is so light staffed and they've got so much responsibilities. We have to advocate for ourselves, so it's a little bit different. You've got to really know your stuff on both the white and gray. You don't have to be capable of opening up a UPS, but by goodness, you better know what a UPS is and the energy storage methodologies and what it does. Just you just don't expect us to work on it. We rely on a lot of our vendor partners in the industries, the Schneiders, the ABBs, the Vertivs, et cetera, to do a lot of that maintenance. But again, I have to be able to explain up to my leadership what's going on. So I review the MOPS and SOPs and EOPs personally to make sure that my data center doesn't go offline, because again, I'm healthcare. I don't want you being on the table and the data center goes offline. It is a really, really bad day.
Yeah, that would be a terrible day. And
Okay.
I was actually going to poll the audience real quick. Does anybody know what UPS stands for? What he's talking about? You right there. So that is what I wanted to point out. The UPS is not the United Parcel Service. That is an uninterruptible power supply.
Big battery, big battery.
And that's really, if you break it down, it is just a giant battery that is there if it's needed.
Yeah.
Awesome.
What he was just talking about, though, is his data center, it's a combination of the operations and also of like what Conrad would talk about from the IT side. And then some of the smaller data centers, I think like H5, people who work there are kind of similar too. You get some of the, so you've got the hyperscalers that are Meta, Google, then you got these rent-a-boxes, as you were talking about, like a lot of these companies coming in where they're renting their box out. Then you got some smaller data centers or something like yours, where they're actually, like H5, they host for a bunch of small companies, and people working there have to have a little bit of both sides, a little bit of the IT side that Conrad was going to talk about here in a little bit, and then also the operations/facilities side.
Exactly.
And BMS stands for Building Management Systems. That's what runs the air conditioning. So so inside of these places, you got all these servers, you got fire alarm systems, you got the security you talked about. Then you got to have power, right? So they have these big generators outside that when the city power isn't good, they kick on. Yeah. All that power goes through these big battery banks because you got to have the power be perfect. Can't go up and down, right? And
as I say, another reason we have to know everything. So, my largest data halls are about the size of this room. My smallest ones are this, literally, this square right here. That's my smallest. And these are the ones that actually, like, literally run the hospitals. So, again, I have to optimize, like, this little space here, but also the giant space. It's quite unique knowledge set.
So I think that gives you guys a perspective as to the different types of data centers there are, the different skill sets when needed. So it's a variety of things. So being well-rounded is great in certain data centers for certain circumstances and positions, and it maybe being more specialized at certain environments is going to play better. So it's just really understanding where you want to work and the opportunities are out there. So take your skill sets, let's align that with where you're trying to get to in the data center industry, but there's a place for everybody. So Conrad, I want to make sure you get heard here as to some of the IT side of things. So why don't you jump in and add something?
Yeah, sure. First off, I think we said Arizona is going to be number 2 in data centers, right? So I've been in Arizona pretty much all my life. About time, right? It's been 110 degrees for many decades in Arizona. There's no rain here. Well, there might be rain. Anyway, let me take you quickly around the room, and then I'll just I'll talk about the curriculum side of it. When I got out of the Navy, I was a radioman. That's how I got into cybersecurity. I dealt with crypto. When I got out of the Navy, I became a network and server administrator for Tolleson High School. And then I don't know when you went to high school there, but I was there early 2010s. 2016, okay, so just missed you. And then right around the corner back there, I think I see Dr. Tracy Salaya, maybe? Oh. former colleague of mine. So that's around the room. I got my I got out of high school, I didn't know what to do. I literally spent a decade not knowing what to do. I got out of the military knowing only that I had free college. So I went to Rio Salado. I got a CIS degree. After Rio Salado, I went to the University of Arizona Global Campus, it's now called. I got my bachelor's and master's there, and then eventually my doctorate. Today, schools like Mesa Community College are building these programs so that students like you can have these building blocks to build on. So you start with data center operations, for instance, and maybe after that, you get into the field for a little while, maybe you want to do some more hardware support. We have that CCL. And then after that, you want to do more networking, we have that CCL. And then eventually you'll have an associate's, right? So these are building blocks that we like to purposely build our programs on. And it starts with IT fundamentals, and then it goes to networking, and then it goes to cybersecurity. And then if you want to, cloud, VMware, AWS. Back to you.
Okay, great. Chris?
I was just going to ask, Dr. Tracy, would you actually come up here and tell your story? Dr. Tracy was actually once a student here at Mesa Community College, which is why I so wanted her to come today. Dr. Tracy, would you grace us with your presence on the stage?
She's looking at you.
We just want to hear your story. And sort of like everyone else, right? I was actually an electrical commissioning engineer, but I never got too much satisfaction out of fixing a piece of equipment. And a lot of times when I went to start it up, I was crossing my fingers saying, I think I did it okay, right? But the first time I helped one of my friends find their way into their career post-military, I got more satisfaction out of that than anything else, right? So I didn't start in talent acquisition or HR, but it's just like everyone else up here, right? It doesn't matter where you start, whether you started network, cyber, facility operations, 10 years from now, you could be doing something completely different. All right, Dr. Tracy, thank you.
Love this. Chris, you're going to take this job next year. It's yours. So thank you for that.
I wasn't supposed to be here today. I heard about this event yesterday, and Chris said, hey, I'm going to be over at MCC doing this event. I was like, oh, MCC, I used to go there. And he said, wow, that was part of your path? And I'm like, yeah, totally. I'd like, 35 years ago. But it's moved things around a little bit, but it's been a great ride and really interesting. So I got out, right out of high school. I started here immediately, taking classes. Back then, when I was 17, just graduated from high school.
And what were you studying back then?
Everything, because I knew everything. At least I thought I did when I was 17. And came here and just started taking classes. And at that time, because I thought I was, knew everything, I didn't really talk to an academic advisor, so I didn't have a path or really a lot of guidance. I just looked at the catalog and thought, oh, okay, I need a science, I need a math, I'll do this and that, and floundered my way around, went into the Air Force, but because I had credits, I got upped in rank, which was great. Did my time there, and as soon as I got out, I did my 4 years, I got out, I came right back to MCC. 1, because it was home. 2, because it was a logical next step for me to continue my education journey. And the reason being is because the faculty was more easily accessible. I could ask them questions, they were there for me all the time. It was a great school anyway. I really enjoyed the topics. And it was quite cheaper, quite honestly, right, than going straight to ASU. Fast forward a few years, I'm working. It's 1997. I decided, okay, it's probably time for me to finish my bachelor's degree. So I went to ASU. Love ASU, don't get me wrong. Did that for a year, and it was good, but I was already in the working field. I was a veteran, and I was taking classes at ASU, and it just wasn't right for me because I just felt like there were too many kids, and I couldn't do that. There was a university at the time, University of Phoenix, which required you to have 5 years of work experience, and you had to be a minimum of 23 years of age at the time. So I thought, cool, my speed, did it. 2 years later, graduated with my bachelor's degree. In the midst of coming to MCC, because I was not smart enough to talk to people that would guide me on a path, when I did my transcript transfer, I came over here to get my transcripts, and I was like, hey, am I ever going to graduate? Because I've been coming here for like a really long time. And they said, yeah, you actually did that 2 years ago. We sent you a letter. Awesome. So I highly recommend and encourage you to talk to people that are in industries. Find out about paths, talk to faculty, let them know what you're interested in, what you might be good at. And interestingly enough, what you think is boring or easy, second hat for you, easy nature, is probably a path you may want to consider, because that's where you have your talent and your skill. So went to University of Phoenix, finished my Bachelor of Science in IT, got my MBA there, wound up completing my doctorate in management and organizational leadership. Now I got into IT. I'd been in IT the whole time. The Air Force took me into electronic intelligence, cybersecurity. That's how I met Dr. Conrad. And we worked together in cybersecurity. I'm still doing stuff there. But in the midst of all of that, I was really good at organizing. So I got into project management for IT, for infrastructure. That led me into data center. And I have a ton of certificates as well. I have a cybersecurity certificate. I have my PMP certificate. Point being is that you don't have to have a terminal degree or even know exactly the path you want to go down. There are people who can help guide you to the right direction, the right classes, the right degree field, or even the right certifications that will help you along the way. And you can flounder just like I did and be a veteran and a musician and get into IT and, I don't know which IT field, and cybersecurity, and maybe infrastructure, and look, I popped into data center and I love it. Now I'm, running programs and the chief of staff for the executive team, and essentially vice president of the new project management office there at Stream. So there are ways, and there's a wealth of education and information and experience that I highly encourage you to tap into. And I'm an alum, I'm happy to tap into too. I'm gonna go back over there.
Hey, folks, by the way, thank you, Dr. When Tracy and I were colleagues at American Airlines, she was my project manager. I was an endpoint security engineer. I had asked her, what is your doctorate in? At the time, I only had a master's. I pursued my doctorate because of her guidance. So as we mentioned networking here, it is very important because these people help you grow, okay?
And that's just how small this industry is. This was not planned. I literally mentioned it to her because we worked together at Stream yesterday, and then we run into another doctor that she knows here today, right? So you do not have to have a clear path forward. Even if you're not 100% certain this is the career for you, come and give it a try. You might find something you like.
That is awesome. I love that. Thank you for sharing that story. That was great, Chris, for dragging her up on stage. She's going to get you later for sure. So she's going to get you. So I want to be really clear this last 10 minutes here, and specifically speaking to the students. What would you suggest they do? Like, tell them, talk directly to the students around giving advice as to what they should do to get into industry. I'm going to start with you on this side, Chris, and work our way down.
My biggest piece of advice to everybody in the room is to do the opposite of what I did in my 20s, and very much like Dr. Tracy, I thought I was the smartest guy on earth in my 20s. And I look back on that guy in my 30s, and I'm like, man, that guy didn't have a lot figured out. But I was arrogant, and I was overconfident, and I didn't talk to people like Brian. I didn't seek out mentors. I didn't ask, LinkedIn is a very underrated tool. Let's say you want to be the vice president of project management one day. You can literally look her up on LinkedIn and look exactly how she took that path there. You can reach out to people and ask them, how did you achieve this in your career? And that really is the number one thing that I wish I would have did in my 20s is just asked other people who had already blazed the path, how did you get here in your career? What did you do? Instead, I bounced around trying to figure it out. And that really is probably my biggest thing. It doesn't matter what your underlying education is in. If you're hardworking and you bring those soft skills, right? It doesn't cost you anything to have a good attitude, to show up on time. And when you have like that idle time at work, you look for somebody else that's doing something. Say, hey, can I come with you on that maintenance on that chiller? Hey, can I see how you do network ops? I've never seen that before, right? So just ask people. Everyone in this industry is like an open book, and we really do want to share that wealth of knowledge with you.
That's great. I love that. And you're so right. We didn't have LinkedIn before. And one of the things I tell people is go out and reach out to 10 people who are doing what you want to do on LinkedIn. And you'll get 7 or 8 of them respond, or 2 or 3 will have a virtual coffee with you, and they're going to share their experiences. So that's great advice, Chris.
And 2 years ago, I would have never imagined myself being in this position, speaking to other people. But actually, Brian brought me into the Arizona Data Center Alliance, and he's been a great mentor to me. So like, you don't have to do this alone. Talk to people who have found success doing it, and I swear it makes your life much easier.
It will. It will. And Chris, thank you for flying out. I know you were out in Ohio last night, so I appreciate you jumping out here. Beth?
I don't really know what else to add, to be quite honest. That was a really great answer. The one thing I would say is, you being here right today is perfect, right? You've gotten to listen to all of this about an industry that you might be interested in. At the end of the day, the choice is really yours, and just make that next step forward, whatever that looks like. If there's an internship possibility, if you see something that says data center something, and you think, hey, I might be able to do that, apply for it. He talked about LinkedIn, just my personal experience. I've had people reach out to me that do not know me and said, hey, I heard that you were part of the Northern Virginia Community College program. Could I just take 10 minutes of your time? Absolutely. And that's, to your point, is that the industry is very open and welcoming and would love to talk to you if you at all have interest or questions. So just taking that next step forward is important.
So the industry is going to stress hands-on experience. And here at Mesa Community College, we try to stress that among all our programs, starting with the simplest classes like BPC 170. I don't see anybody in my previous classes here, but in one of my 8-week classes, every week we would come into class, take a computer, take it apart, put it back together, and then power it on. If it doesn't power it on, we troubleshoot it, right? Demand hands-on experience, from as simple as hardware, networking, real-world networking we offer with NetAcad and NetLabs, Red Hat, AWS. Demand it. You deserve it, and we can offer it here at Mesa Community College.
That's the perfect thing to say. So come and visit us, okay? If you're not already a student and you're interested in either the IT side or the operations side, come and visit. All the tables right there have a flyer for the AIT program. Take that QR code, come and visit us. In our program, we've got over $5 million of equipment. And so everything we do except for our safety class and our intro to data center is all hands-on, so you're getting practical experience. No, it's not a distribution line at Mesa. No, I don't have a backup generator. I don't have a huge, we don't have all the systems that you'd have on a plant, but we're giving those skills to go into where the end users, the employers don't have to train you on the basics. They're training you on how it works at their facility. What are they doing? What do they have? What equipment? How is theirs unique, specific? So, but QR code, come and visit us. If you're interested in the IT area and CIS,
Yeah.
come and talk to people.
And Ken, we have scholarships too, right? So.
Oh,
talk
yeah,
about
thanks.
that.
Dean Voss mentioned it earlier. So we actually have a multitude of scholarships, right, or grants and scholarships in the AIT area. So there's we have the contributions that we got from the data centers that are paying for AIT 117, which is the intro to data centers, and 227, which is the power distribution. So those are free, along with any course fees and also registration. Our safety class, we have a federal grant that actually is paying for that. It's only a 1-credit class, but that's also paid for. We have another one where our first electrical class for the next 2 semesters are being paid for. So out of the 8 classes, I think we've got 1, 2, 4 of the classes are actually being paid for. And they're not even like regular scholarships where you have to apply and write a big thing. because a lot of the scholarship, a lot of things are scholarship. These are actually donations, so they're stipends, we call them. So if you successfully complete the classes, you just get a credit on your student center. So 4 of the 8 classes are actually covered.
Just to echo Ken there, that you can literally go take those classes for free. They're already paid for. All you have to do is take it, complete it, and it's already paid for. You get the credit on your transcript.
You have to pay for them, then you get the funds back. But again, you don't have to fill out any paperwork other than put your name down. Go to 2 of them, you go to a site and you just put your name in, and that you want to be reimbursed for it. And once we get to that point, so they're very simple. So 4 of the 8 classes.
And before you kick it over to Ryan, will you talk actually about what happened with the AFCOM interns this past semester, right?
Yeah.
We got to surprise them with a nice
Yeah,
little...
that was a great thing, yeah, and it was amazing. We actually had students that took the 117 class. I think Jesse and Kendall, who taught in Mesa, and Jesse taught at Estrella, actually taught the 117 class, which is the Intro to Data Center class. And those 2 students finished that class, and they came on to an internship with Align and actually got hired on. And it's a great story. And actually, the AFCOM organization gave them $4,000 just because, so which is great. So it was a great story. I think it was amazing. I thank our partners of Align, and just great partnership working with you guys on that. So that was a great way of showcasing the education opportunities, the internship opportunities, and then the job opportunities. So we're looking to do more of that, and maybe Ryan could even touch on some of the internships for next year we're thinking about. But thank you, Chris. That was good.
Absolutely. So, and just to kind of touch on the original question, so be curious, learn, connect with those experts. And by the way, so AFCOM, the other user groups, you can get a free membership. You can come to my events for free, and connect into a wealth of knowledge and ask people of multiple different angles and just curiosity factors about what we do. Because again, there's all kind. To Chris's point earlier, there's so many different jobs you can do in the data center industry. They all show up to these events, and feel free to pick their brains. I mean, we're all happy to talk. We don't bite, I swear. But getting into the actually internship stuff. So one thing that we do here in the local area is we have an internship program. This will be coming in the 2026 year. Will be our 4th year. We're refactoring right now. We're going to really focus on the COTS technicians, your critical operations technician, doing more of that electrical mechanical, and we're also going to focus on the LV side, so your low voltage kind of thinking, your cabling essentially. So we'll be taking applications for that probably coming into Q1 here. We're going to be working with the various operators, LV subs, et cetera, to try to get you slots in those organizations, and hopefully you go through it, and then maybe like the ones from Align, they get jobs and you're into the industry. So our goal here with AFCOM is to really be a part of that pipeline. So y'all do your education here, hopefully come into my program, do your internship, get a job, and then you're in the industry.
Yeah, so let's be real clear here. The call to action today is there's an opportunity to sign up for the Intro to Data Center class to 117, and Ken, they can actually sign up, is it next week?
It's open right now. At this point right now, we actually do not have that. Thank you. My voice normally carries. People don't normally need it. Right now, registration is open up for returning students. In a week and a half, it opens up for any new students. In the spring semester, currently, there's not a Intro to Data Center class, but we're going to add it. We're 90% sure we're going to have one for the spring, especially if we get a lot of feedback from this group that people want to do it. Okay. We've run it 3 straight semesters, and we were not going to run it this spring, but it looks like if we can get the interest, we'll go ahead and get that going again.
Yep. So sign up. So,
but all the other classes are. All the other classes, the other 7 classes are 100% running every single semester.
Yep. So you can, and again, that certificate is stackable. So if you want to take those 6 classes for 8 classes for the data center certificate, you can also work towards an associate degree. You can work towards a bachelor degree. It's very stackable, and that's one of the things we want to make sure that people had a path to a bachelor's degree. So if you're interested, sign up for the 117 class. There's a scholarship available for it. If you're an operator in the room, and we do have some of our operating partners here, we're looking for internships. So we want to, next summer, Ryan, keep me honest here, next summer we want to have, if you're interested in having students for an internship, we're looking to have multiple students and hopefully up to 20 students next year. So please, if you're interested, let Ryan know. He'll work with you on getting that set up, but we want to find a home just like those other 2 students that we had this past year, which was an amazing story for them to get on at a line. So we want to continue to build that. So we're looking for operator support as well as scholarships. If there's any funding or anything you guys want to contribute like we've done previously to help fund this process, we want to continue to do that. And then I think for Ryan, was there anything else on any other scholarships or anything from AFCOM or no?
I see nothing else on that, but I'll say though again, grab a student membership for AFCOM. You get access to all the information that we have. You get access to the experts again for free. It's us in the industry. We're paying $350 to $400 a year for that. You guys can get it for free and come tap into all of our knowledge and again really learn about the industry. So
Yep, that's great. I'm going to do something a little off script here, Kim. We're going to ask for questions real fast. It will take a few minutes while they're setting up, and we're going to finish up with our Google panel next. But any questions for this team at this point? Go ahead, you. Oh, Ken's got it. Oh, here we go.
I actually kind of wanted to flip the question. What are some things that would keep us out of the industry that maybe like we talked a lot about, here are the things that we really want. What are you looking in, like, let's say I go into a meeting or I go into like an internship or an interview and you look at me and you say, okay, here are the things I want, and I tell myself about you or about me or whatever. And what are the things that you're looking for that will keep me out of your office or out of what you're doing right now?
Are you asking what you can do wrong to not get a job in the data centers? I mean, it's a fair question, right? So not being a self-starter, right? If you, like, there's going to be idle time in the data center, and if you're that person that just sits there and plays on your phone, you're not learning, you're not helping the team. Like, you want to be that self-starter. You want to be that curious person that's always, okay, hey, I'm not doing maintenance right now. Who is doing maintenance? What else can I learn? Or pick up a book, right? Or, if somebody sees you, studying one-line diagrams that have nothing to do with, what you're working on, nobody's going to knock you for that. So what can you do wrong is just, not be a hard worker, I guess, because like this industry is great for everyone, because it doesn't matter if you have tattoos, piercings, anything like that. No one cares. All that people care about is how good you can do the job, and where are you going to take your career, because that's one of the big things that people look for in hiring right now. Everyone's company is growing. Data centers next year won't be the same as they are this year. So like, you have to be able to learn and grow with your position and your company, right? So I'd say that's the biggest thing.
Okay, one piece of advice, don't send in an ugly resume. Take 5 minutes and throw it through.
Give that guy a microphone.
Okay, I don't know if, I'm sure you all heard that, but just he said to pay attention to your resume. Is that right? So there's a couple of red flags that usually when I do any interviewing that tell me I'm not sure about this. One, to come in with the attitude of that's not my job, meaning I'm getting hired for this job, but if somebody else wants me to do something, that's not my job. So if you have that kind of attitude, you're going to struggle, probably not only for an interview in a data center, but really anywhere. So that's number one. Number two, don't pretend like you know something that you don't know. So when you get an interview with the data center, and they might do a technical screening to see what do you know, it is okay to say, I don't know. But guess what? I'm going to learn that. And if I could have your email at the end of this, I would love to follow up with you and show you that I know that. So those are two red flags for me. And then yes, you're right. Just pay attention to your resume. Spend time, have somebody else look over it. I'm sure probably even here at the community college, there's probably resources for that. So
There's career service resources that you can go out to each of those campuses, and you can actually get some support on that. So yeah. Question?
I'm the new Vanna White.
Are you guys taking resumes right now?
Absolutely.
Perfect, thank you.
Chris was about to hire the Uber driver on the way over here, so
That's a true story. Our Uber driver happened to have a degree in construction management, a background as an electrician's mate in the Navy, and I said, you're perfect. What are you doing for the rest of the day? And he actually might have come back. I don't see him immediately, but he might be on his way back, so he had planned to come back here. But to Beth's point, right, the reason we don't want you to pretend that you know something is that we would much rather have that person during a critical operation that isn't 100% confident in what they're doing say, oh, hey, actually, I don't think that I'm 100% confident. Can you help me, right? And that's all you need to do. And in that interview, if you don't know the answer, exactly what Beth said, actually, I don't know the answer to that, but let me try to answer it. And that tells us how your brain thinks. What's your line of thinking? What's your logic? Like, and critical thinking skills are worth $1 million in today's world. Don't get too caught up into typing everything into ChatGPT. It will hurt your critical thinking skills, right? But it is a great tool for helping interviewing or helping to review your resume. But right, it should just be a tool in your toolbox. It shouldn't be the only thing that you're doing.
Was there another question?
Yeah, I just had a question for you back here. This might better go towards Ken. Beth might be able to comment on as well, or anyone on the panel. There's another entire labor force that I haven't really heard anybody talk about yet, and that's the people that actually do the physical wiring in the data centers, the copper, the fiber optic. There's a huge need on that side, and everybody can't be an IT tech, everybody can't be an HR, everybody can't be, a world traveler, resource, management kind of HR kind of thing. But there's a whole labor force that's needed to wire these data centers. I just didn't know if you guys had any thoughts or comments on that side of things.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm the RCDD on the panel, so Registered Communications Distribution Designer for Bixby. So yes, I run the LV teams for Banner Health. So yes, you are absolutely right, because I have 8 subs and they're constantly busy. I mean, literally, we're doing so many, literally, and this is just hospitals, we're running hundreds of miles of wiring, but you talk data center, you're talking literal thousands of miles of wiring. So no, that's actually something that we're trying to tackle as part of the AFCOM internship program is the need for more LV technicians. Because you're absolutely right, it's great that, yes, electrical, mechanical, et cetera, but at the end of the day, it all needs to be connected to make the internet work. So I think it hasn't been talked about in just Ryan's sheer opinion. It hasn't been talked about enough, and I'm trying to sound that because I have many friends in the LV industry, and you're right, they're suffering. So again, a very great career path. You can do tech, design, move on up. So I've got a lot of friends that's a very lucrative career for them.
Sorry, my point was just more that, everybody that graduates high school and college, maybe college and advanced college degrees isn't their forte per se, and they don't know what to do with themselves. And there are a lot of opportunities in that world for people to have a job, a career, and you're not just pulling cable and labeling cable forever. There's, we have people that moved into safety programs, we have people that moved into HR, management, project management. So I just want, maybe students aren't aware that an IT certificate isn't the only door into a data center. There's the labor force door that gets you in there, and you could end up getting a job with Microsoft or Meta or Google or Legacy or whatever. And like you've all been saying on the panel, which is great, all of us have, nobody in life started out as a data center, whatever. Everybody came from a different walk of life. And so I'm just saying that side, that labor force, could also be another avenue for people to get into the data center world.
Absolutely. Actually, I got a buddy who was a car mechanic, and he actually ended up jumping into with Aspen, doing eventually just junior cable tech, finished off as a foreman, and now he got picked up by Leighton and building a very large mega site somewhere out in Cedar Rapids. So again, it's a success story. He's now the MEP soup for Leighton.
Yeah, and it's a very good point, actually. Northern Virginia's program has fiber optics in it. They didn't do Cat 5 and stuff like that. And when we were putting this one together, we decided not to add that one in because it had been a third class, and we were to develop, and we were looking at staying more on the mechanical, electrical side. But it was definitely a topic when we were putting together this program because there is such a big need in that area. And people don't know where to go to get training, and that's the issue. There's Chandler Gilbert had a program for a while back that they were doing something around that, and then they weren't getting enough people in. I think it was 5-7 years ago, so it was probably ahead of the time of when there was such a need. And so we have a little bit about, you know, if some of the IT programs have cabling and things in it, and yeah. Yeah. But yeah, you're 100% correct. It's definitely somebody.
Your question about the fiber, and Ryan's right, you need the folks within those centers to do this stuff. We haven't been geared at the district level and the colleges within the district to be able to support that. Yeah, sorry. But one of the things that we do have at the district level that we're talking about right now, we're in negotiation with another company out there that has come to us and wants to do fiber, the Bixby training within their own environment. And so we're in negotiations right now to discuss how we're going to set that program up and hopefully get that up here within a reasonable time period so we can take our network students that we have currently training within the Cisco programs that we have at the colleges and then get them the fiber training on top of that and some internship opportunities along with it so that they can come over to folks like Ryan and be geared up so that they can walk in and actually know how they're going to string all this stuff. I can pull zip lines, but I can't terminate. So, so if that helps.
Can I just add one thing? And I think you put it up there, Alexandra. You had a list of all these other companies that are in the data center industry, like either as like vendors, you know, construction, security, and so there's a lot of avenues. At Northern Virginia, when I was taking my class, after I created it, one of the students there who was going through the program was cleaning data centers. So his job was not operating. He'd come in and they would go in and clean, and they'd clean under the floor. And so I don't know however many years that go, it was not that long ago. He's made his way into the data center industry, started off as an apprentice, a technician, then he went to a lead assistant manager, and to date, he is now a facility manager. And that's probably only been like 5 years ago. So my point being, the other thing is that we're also talking about vendors. A lot of the data centers, if you show up as a vendor and you're a contractor and you're maybe working for one of the other companies like Schneider Electric or doing construction or security, for example, and you show an interest in the data center industry and you make that connection, you're welcome. There are so many people that have landed into the data center industry working in tech, in ops or in remote hands, but they've been pulled in from other avenues as well. So yes, that's a great point. I'm glad that you brought that up.
Great. Sure.
Okay, hey team. I just wanted to share just 2 more resources as well. If you're not on LinkedIn, first of all, get on LinkedIn and join a group called Phoenix Data Center Young Professionals, Phoenix DCYP. It is new. It is specifically for people in this industry with 5 years or less experience, or for those 35 years of age or under. I've been to quite a few, and it is phenomenal networking there. Everyone is like 2 months into the space or less, or they're looking to join this space. And then also, if you are on WhatsApp, or you're willing to download it, come to me. I'll add you to a group. It is specifically for students and newbies in this space, and people post job postings in there. They also have potential mentors in that space. So just 2 more resources for you guys to check out. But also make sure that you get connected with all of these folks on LinkedIn, or come up and just ask them questions after this and use the resources that you have. This school has a lot for you, and it'll help you go far. So.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I want to thank the panel for your great contributions and conversations. Thank you, guys. All right, good conversation. So let's go ahead and our next speakers are going to be from Google. So we've got Matt and Brandon. Oh, let me scroll. Right here. There we go. Trying to get this going for you, Brandon, here. Oops, it's asking me for a login. All right. Why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourself, and I'll see if I can work through the technical issues real quick. Hopefully that doesn't take me too long here.
Okay, looks like a bit of a technical issue there. So I'm Brandon Nielsen. I work at Google at the Mesa Data Center campus. I'm the site manager or campus manager for what we're building there. Mostly facilities operations, but I have to look at everything from landscaping to the kitchen to all the facilities. Pretty exciting what we're doing there. I was a Navy nuke, like many people in the data center industry. There's a lot of Navy, Air Force, a lot of veterans around the industry. And I was in semiconductor before that.
Hi, I'm Matt Bocox. I've been with Google for the past decade, 10 years as of last month. Prior to that, I was also a Navy nuke. Turns out that cooling a hot rock, the reactor, translates pretty well to cooling computers. It's almost the exact same cooling loop, just a little tweak. I was in the Navy for 9 years as a submarine electrician, and I've been with Google for those 10 years. I spent 8.5 years in Lenore, North Carolina, very close to ASU, where Google has their data center, and moved out here for the plant engineer position, and have started, adding capacity to Google.
Great, I have the presentation up. Can we just jump to the first slide? Oh, all right.
Yeah, so we went through intros there, and we have a couple short videos that we're going to show, and then talk about some of the different fields within the data center industry.
Have you ever wondered how digital devices are able to connect us to the world? Data centers are the engines that power the technology to make it all happen. These buildings full of computers store and process all of the information that we access online. Google data centers play a vital role in building a growing, connected, and sustainable world for everyone. Google is committed to working with local communities to build the necessary infrastructure of tomorrow to support connection, digitization, and prosperity where it's most needed. As we build our data centers, we are taking bold action to protect the environment with the goal that by 2030, all of our data centers will run on clean energy 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. When Google invests in our own infrastructure, we also invest in the communities around us. We build lasting relationships with local organizations so that our support in the form of grants, education programs, and other initiatives aligns with local needs and priorities. We work with partners in our community like schools, nonprofits, and small businesses to help bring better jobs, more skills training, and of course, technology access. We believe by being stewards of the community and the environment, we can all help build a resilient future together.
Okay, so one thing to say on that, we're relatively new to the Arizona community, so we're still integrating, especially into the city of Mesa. We're starting to get pretty involved, and you'll see a lot more of us at events, charity events, things like that in the future. One thing I forgot to say in my intro is I also am the current instructor for the AIT 117 Intro to Data Centers program at Mesa College here. So it's a great class, and highly recommend. Good instructor. Okay, so yeah, that slide back there, that just shows most of our products. Everybody is fairly aware of what we're supporting internally. Okay, and then on this next slide here, oh no, can you go back to the, sorry. Yeah, there we go. That's what, one of our facility levels looks like. We typically don't do the Google colored piping anymore. That's it costs a lot of money to do the piping like that, so there's a few of our facilities that are done that way, but
it's really cool, though. That looks great.
It's definitely a good photo. So who are we? We have many jobs that make a data center work. We have data center technicians, which are on, as described by the Microsoft folks, on the server side. Facility technicians, which handle all of the facilities, power, cooling, and the controls, so all the PLCs and everything that it takes to be able to monitor the plant and the building. We have technicians that monitor all that. Engineers, like Matt, he is our lead plant engineer. He's kind of the heartbeat of the operations on the site. Logistics. You would not believe what it takes to deploy enough servers to fill a data hall. So logistics, you're getting truckloads and truckloads of things in when you're doing your fit outs. And those teams have to handle a lot of shipments, a lot of big crates, and that is a 24/7 job. So logistics is a big deal. Construction. It takes a long time to build one of these data centers. And it's typically not one. You're typically, on the hyperscale side, you're building out an entire campus. So you might be building 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 huge buildings. And the construction arm of that is massive.
So one clarification I want to make sure for data center technicians, there are data center facilities technicians, which is DC ops, and data center technicians, which are GSO, who are the server ops. So those are the folks doing the repairs, upgrades on the floor if they need to swap a drive, anything like that. And facility technicians are typically the tradespeople for infrastructure, mechanical, cooling, controls, infrastructure.
Yeah, thanks. And on the construction side, so you have your general contractors, which there's a lot of opportunities with all these GCs that are being hired out across the country and across the world to build these data centers. But most companies, especially the hyperscalers, will have their own in-house construction folks as well that have to be very knowledgeable in that industry, and they are the go-between to make sure that the GC is on track and that we have what we want on our side, that we're represented and that the project is going the way that it's supposed to when you're building a data center that you intend to own and you intend to fully operate. We do have several positions on the construction side within Google itself. I already talked about controls. So we have all of these technicians and all of these things going on. You need leaders, you need managers, you need supervisors. So that's an ever-growing arm of our operation as well. EHS. So when you're taking in the kind of voltages that we are, you have high voltage, medium voltage, low voltage, 230,000 volts, 14,000 volts, everything in between, and a lot of chemicals. So you need EHS on site. You have to have a good safety program. We want to keep everybody safe. That is a fundamental arm of the data center industry as well. Security. We want to keep all this stuff secure. You guys, there's plenty of YouTube videos on it. Google has a good one about what the 5 or 6 layers of security are, what it takes to actually get into the data hall. By the time I get into the data hall, I've swiped my badge multiple times, entered PIN codes everywhere, biometrics, everything. It is a very, very strenuous process to get into the data hall itself, and for good reason. We can't have that data getting out there. And then food teams. So one of the perks at Google, all breakfast, lunch, snacks, drinks, coffee, everything is free. So we have to keep a pretty enormous food team and chefs on staff to cook all the breakfasts and cook all the lunches at every single campus. And
so with that said, on the food teams, you talk about resume building and getting an in. One of the interviews, so I've done about 200 interviews over my 10 years, and one of those happened to be a food service personnel worker at one of our sites. And it said, hey, I've done technician here, and landed in food service. And then I was like, well, that's interesting, right? Because you read the resume and you do your research. And that was actually one of the best interviews I've ever done. I was like, that blew me away. That's awesome. And now that person is working somewhere in Henderson, Nevada. So it's kind of crazy what you see and what kind of paths you may take. But just always, keep trucking to the final goal. The persistence that Zane was kind of talking to.
okay, so some of the skill sets that data centers, whether hyperscalers are looking for, it goes way beyond just the few things that we've mentioned: building maintenance, computer repair, controls. Diesel techs is a big one that I like to stop on for a second. So, I've talked to truck mechanics. I've talked to people that are coming out of the Marines or the Army saying, "What are you talking about? I can't
I'm not qualified to work at a place like that. Well, didn't you tell me you worked on tanks? Yeah, well, I have about 60 of the biggest diesel engines you've ever seen in your life spread across my campus. We would love for somebody to help us work on those. So it goes further than you think. EHS, we talked about that, electricians, fiber optics, leadership, Linux, vendor management, technical writing, security, scripting, robotics, project management. It's all growing. It's all pretty much exploding. What I tell my students in the class that I teach on Thursdays, my personal opinion, we're standing, all of us in the industry, we're standing on the precipice of something that I think we're going to look back on, and it's going to eclipse the Industrial Revolution. I think it's going to make that look small. That's what I think is going on here, and all of these positions are growing, and there's new positions being created, things that we didn't even know we needed, and all of that is becoming a blossoming industry as well. Go to the next slide. So who we hire. We hire a diverse combination of industry experts from community colleges, trade schools, military, universities, tech industry, non-traditional backgrounds. It doesn't really matter. And I will tell you, of the entire staff that we've built out at the Mesa Data Center campus, nobody knows who has a degree and who doesn't. We don't really look at that. We don't really care. What skills are you bringing to the table? What experience do you have that is potentially relevant to this? Or what skills are you trying to build right now with your can-do attitude that we can get you in and start maybe training you from a ground level? Because the one thing that's not explained here about who we hire, one of the biggest things for us, and we touched on it a little bit in some of the other talks, is people laugh at this word, but for us, me and Matt, it's a completely normal word, being googly. So what that means to other people, don't be a jerk. You are expected to just be a nice person. You shouldn't have to be coached in the hallway not to yell at your coworkers and not to pound your fists on the table if you get frustrated about something. Treat your coworkers with respect. Mutual respect across the board. Just help people out, be nice, be motivated. And all of that comes across in an interview, and it's things that we look for. We specifically look for some of those traits, and we write about it. And everything being equal, if you have 4 candidates that have made it to the end and all 4 have the best interview scores you've ever seen, who do we pick? Well, we're going to look at some of the feedback on what came through in the interview, this person just seemed more focused on making sure that, something that just totally didn't matter and kind of came through that maybe they don't really appreciate their coworkers that much. That's going to matter if it comes down to 4 equal people. So that's how we kind of, help keep things googly, as we like to say.
And part of what Chris Dove had kind of mentioned is that, staying humble, especially in your 20s, you can be kind of, a know-it-all, and sometimes that happens to people. And that's kind of the key, is to ensure you stay humble, you ask questions, a bunch of questions, and kind of question system, question the process. Say, I don't know. That was a big part of the interview process as well. And typically, even when I'm performing interviews, I'll say, hey, this is a role-related knowledge interview. I'm going to ask a very long stream of questions. The expectation, is not that you know everything. It's not sustainable. That's not attainable. And just, if they say, if they're trying to stumble, or if the candidate's stumbling, I'll give that speech so that they get the level ground.
So where we work, like many hyperscalers, we have developed a large presence already, and we are expanding rapidly. So it's kind of hard to see on the map there, but I included a map of the United States and a lot of the cities that we're already operating out of, and then some of the aerial views of what these campuses might look like. And there is a huge demand that needs to be filled, and that demand right now is insatiable. And again, one of my own personal opinions is I think all of this demand is going to beget more demand. it's fueling itself, and everything that is created and all the new advancements that we're going to have is only going to fuel more of this. So there's some growth here. It's an exciting time to be a part of this industry. I think that's the last one. Okay.
Yep, that was the last slide. Awesome. Well, first of all, I love the be googly. So that's a great term. I love that. So I'm going to open up for questions for this team. If there's anybody out there who has any questions for the Google team. Sure. I'll give her.
We got two up here. So.
Thank you. I drive, I work in East Mesa, and I drive past the Google data center that's being built. My question is, do you guys work on that building, and when is it going to open? Because it reaches from like Power to Sosaman, and it's so huge.
It's open.
It's open?
It's open, and it's our first building's running, and we're expanding.
Okay, sorry, over here. This is more a personal question for you guys. So you both were military. Would you suggest, like, for example, I graduate, would you suggest going into a branch, spending your 4 years or doing whatever and coming back and trying to go back into, what are your thoughts on that? Would you suggest that route?
I would say only if it suits you, right? Military life it's strenuous, right? It is not always going to be rainbows and sunshine. It is hard. It's a hard life, especially being deployed. And if you have a family, it makes it even harder. But yes, you do learn a lot of soft skills. You learn a lot of hard skills that can be translated easily to a industry such as the data center industry. Recommending it, I mean, sure, you could, but like I said, it's definitely a lifestyle choice. But you will also, part of that is the networking piece of it. By and large, I'm part of a group of Submariners, a group of Navy folks that have now gotten out. So I'm part of a much larger community than I would have ever reached just staying in high school, right? Just right out of high school.
And I'll add to that. I agree with everything Matt said. And one thing, a twist that I'll put on that, though, is it is personal preference about if it's a lifestyle that you want to undertake. But so I have teenage daughters. One of them is a senior in high school. And I've been talking with her a lot, and she's applied to the Air Force Academy. Hopefully she gets in. That's a very hard thing to do. But if not, we've talked about backup plans of potentially going enlisted in the Air Force, maybe the Coast Guard. And there's reasons for that. So she's very technical. She's has very high aptitude on the science and math side, like a lot of people that you find maybe in the Navy nuke field or elsewhere in the Air Force. And like was mentioned earlier, there is a severe lack of technical females that are applying for these roles. And she has some of those skills, and what I've coached her on is if this becomes something that you want to do and you apply and you get accepted, maybe you stay in for a career, maybe you get out after 4 years, but if you get out at that 4-year, 6-year, 8-year, 10-year mark, not only do you probably have a free education at that point, but the world is your oyster in the tech industry because those skills are so transferable to anything that's going on, whether it's semiconductor, whether it's the data center industry, or whether it's a new industry spawned off of AI that we're not even aware of yet. To me, all of that was relevant, and it's something that interests her. So that's the path that she may go on. But it's, again, about whether you're willing to accept that lifestyle choice. But if you put in those 4 years or 6 years and you are touching anything technical or mechanical, it's gonna open up a lot of doors in some of what's going on in the tech industry right now.
Hey, Chris, did you have any thought? I know you're a Navy nuke. Did you have any comments you wanted to make?
So I'll never not recommend that somebody joins the military, right? We need people to serve the country, but it's absolutely not a prerequisite to these careers. And the reason that you see so many of us are veterans is because what kid signs up and joins the military usually, right? the kid that doesn't really know what they want to do, and we let Uncle Sam tell us what we're going to do. And then we get out and we find, that operational tempo of the military, right? That mission critical work that is so similar to the data center world. So like, coming from 24/7, 365 critical ops in a military environment, it's a very nice stepping stone versus, if I would have went to college and had a 9-to-5 job, there is a little bit of a culture shock to going into 24/7, 365. So should you join the military? Absolutely, if you want to. Serve your country, serve it honorably. America is the greatest place on earth. Is it a prerequisite for these careers? Absolutely not.
This is another weird question, sorry. I have a brother that's a mechanical engineer, and he tried to go to Boeing to do some of their technical stuff. It's not exactly the same, but some of it kind of relates. And a big factor that kept him from actually getting a job was his health. What are the, are there any kind of like health things that, or like disabilities or different things that would affect whether or not we're able to get jobs at places like this? It's an odd question, I know.
So
So that's a tough one to get into. There'll usually be a screening questionnaire that has the outright, basic qualifications for on the physical side that like us hiring managers, we're not allowed to ask. That has to be asked legally by HR and whatnot. But outside of that, it's, I don't see anything limiting there, but it would need to be discussed. But all the rules are followed, and if somebody has the skills and they're capable of being hired, it doesn't matter what's going on with that person. They're the one that'll get hired.
I believe, like in our postings, the most simple requirements are abilities to stand for a handful of hours a day and at least lift, I think, 45 pounds. That is the bare minimum. What is on any employer posting, right?
Yeah, question.
Sure.
Hi, sorry, I was looking through the list of skill sets, so I see there's a vendor management aspect of it, but I was wondering if you could elaborate. Is that more so the business side of it?
Yeah, it's program management related. So it touches both sides, and there's a side that is near and dear to our hearts that we see every day, and then there's the whole side that makes that work. So we use a lot of third-party contractors that we hire in to supplement our workforce, in addition to all the full-time technicians that we have, and those are vendors, and you can't directly manage that vendor. I can't have that person report to me and me give them a performance review and me give them direct instructions on how they need to improve. That has to be handled by their employer, and it has to be handled by a go-between and a mediator. So we have vendor managers that are specifically trained on how to do that, and they do work typically for the company, Google or whatever company, and they help that for us. However, Matt's going to get into on a day-by-day, since they're embedded and working with our teams, then even more of a soft daily sort of vendor interaction and that as far as work goes.
Yeah, I think it's more common to see on the data center operation side to see that day-to-day management. So that's those soft skills of communicating with those vendors, going through the JRAs, the job risk assessments, and making sure that they know the hazards, they know the scope of work, and now you've essentially released them to do that work, and then getting back with them, checking in with them, making sure that everything is good. I know that some data centers they will outsource all of their work, data center operations in Google. We will take the first swing at most of the technical issues and try to troubleshoot. And if it's outside our skill set, then we will bring folks on site. What else? And some of that you can get into programmatically, as let's say a Tech 2 or a Tech 3, you start kind of giving management those recommendations, right, for different vendors, like, oh, we want these people for this year, or we want to have a contract with these people to ensure that we have coverage for our business, right? Let's say if there's emergency break fixes or something like that, we already have a contract set up.
Thank you.
I was just wondering, Zane mentioned some books that he thought might be helpful for folks to read. I was wondering if you guys had any recommendations for certifications that they should look out for, books, podcasts, anything that you think would give them an edge trying to enter into this industry.
So I do have a, kind of a fun, super interesting book that I recommend to everybody. I recommend it to people that I interview. It's not necessarily going to help you get in, but it's a very interesting insight into the inner workings of Google from about 10, 15 years ago. It's called Work Rules, written by one of our senior managers at the time. Super interesting book, super interesting look into how Google became or grew into kind of what it is today, and some of the rules and philosophies that they used to operate by. And still do. It's formed our culture that, kind of we've always tried to maintain because that culture has a bit of a reputation. That's one. As far as skills, with what we listed, almost anything you can go and grab and have it be relevant. The biggest thing, and I was going to say this when I got up here, is networking. Events like this are so powerful. Events like this are what got me a completely different job in the semiconductor industry. I was flown out to Arizona from Florida. I had no idea what I was interviewing for, no clue whatsoever. And the company that I ended up working for put on an event like this for all these candidates that they flew out. And I took the opportunity when the dinner or cocktail hour or whatever it was done to go and talk with all the employees that they had at the event, whereas everybody else at the event, they took off. They went to the Scottsdale bars or whatever, and I'm literally the only person walking around talking to everybody, and I got plucked out of that job field and plopped into something completely different and way more lucrative and way better for what would end up being my future career. And that's just one example, but events like this or a job fair or whatever it might be, anytime there is a chance to talk on a more personal level with employees or employers from particularly the industry that you're interested in getting in, or from all industries. If there's an event where like tech folks are there and maybe construction folks, and I've been at hiring events where like the CIA and FBI were there with booths hiring, and going to those is so wildly important and so good for just building your confidence and your networking skills, but you never know who you're going to meet and who you're going to talk to. And worst case that happens is you have some good conversations, but best case, you're building your network and kind of that either virtual Rolodex or your LinkedIn Rolodex of people that you actually want to talk to and can reach out to and maybe bridge that gap into getting that, that interview maybe that you've always been looking for.
I will say, DC Ops as a whole, we had a global push. This was 7 or 8 years ago now. I feel like I've been here forever. But it was CMCO, which was Certified Mission Critical Operator Certification. I believe that should, I'm not familiar with Maricopa College's. We use the CMCO manual for our okay. Perfect. But that certification was essentially a push. We already had the job, but they wanted us to go and get that, and a lot of us did end up getting that certification. That was essentially covering a day in the life. It went over raised floor designs, heating, cooling, thermodynamics, all the basics for data center infrastructure. Well, I can't talk anymore. Sorry.
Awesome. Zane?
Yeah, so I just kind of want to add on to the book thing really quick. Come stand up. Yeah, I always have like a thing, especially as students, is like, depending on like the tech company like Google or Microsoft, I always read the books of the CEOs. I always try to get like their vision so I can understand like what is the CEO trying to do. so I can kind of align my values of what I do in my career to what the company's trying to do. I know back at Intel when I worked there, there's a book called Intel Trinity. It was the founding fathers of Intel and how it was created from Robert Noyce and like Gordon Moore and all them, and how it all started. So really just kind of getting the history aspect of like what you're trying to do and where we're at today. That kind of goes into more like, you know, what the vision is, right? More of like thinking, where are we going to go? Getting into more of the technical stuff, book-wise, I think depending on what you want to do, I usually go to like thrift stores. I can go to Amazon, things like that. I buy a bunch of like, not big textbooks, it's more just like normal books. Like, oh, I'm gonna learn more about electrical stuff, electrical basics, mechanical basics, right? Taking your classes, things like that. I know I can get them on discount, whatever. I would start there. When it gets into more like IT stuff like that, I know like Google, there's a lot of like cloud books. You can kind of look, how do I administrate the cloud, how I do cybersecurity in cloud. For Microsoft-wise, it's like, you know, the AZ900 certifications, the MS900. So like focusing on those fundamental books, that's more of the technical side, and comparing that to the kind of like the electrical, mechanical, and also the programming side of things. You can build a huge, broad skill set by just reading, but also applying it to the field, but also having that kind of the CEO vision, kind of more of that side as well. So that's kind of like something just kind of add on for that.
Great. Love that. Any more questions? Got two. One in the front here. One back there. We'll get you next.
Okay, so I have a question that kind of goes into the fact that this whole industry is expanding here in Arizona. Like, I actually have a background in architecture, and after doing architecture and applying that into a couple of companies and learning the drafting side and administrative supporting project managers and the chief leadership, I also went into getting just a business degree just to see how entrepreneurship works. And now I'm diving into tech. So one of the questions that I've always had is how, I guess what's one way that you would marry the construction industry or building industry with tech? Are there any specific niches that you can think of that marry the two?
Well, there's a heavy need for QCX, so quality construction, and you know, like everyone has been saying, the project management piece of that. So there are a handful of electrical EEs, electrical engineers, mechanical engineers for the building, architectural, civil. But yeah, a large portion of like a sector is that QCX and the project managers that run it. And there's, I mean, for every single building that's going to go up with all, at least the hyperscalers, they're going to have some kind of quality check on all of those builds and making sure that everything stays on time, on schedule, and pays for delivery.
And most of the hyperscalers have adopted a model of, we're not going to use our own employees to certify all of this switchgear and all of these generators or UPSs or whatever. We're not typically going to use our own employees to certify that. We're going to have we hire a third party to come in and do it. We'll, of course, accompany them and make sure that, number one, we're training our employees to know what to look for on some of these things. But that is a thriving industry in and of itself, is these commissioning agents. And so there's companies that can't find themselves enough commissioning agents that can go out in the field and do the level 2 and level 3 commissioning checks on this gear. And it's super important that it's done to keep the project on time, and it does tie into things. You really got to understand the construction side of it, the time piece of it on keeping the project on track. So there's a bit of several fields that kind of tie into being either a commissioning agent or a person that's managing all those commissioning agents in the field. It's something I wanted to add about that.
Yes, I think there's great opportunities for you both at the hyperscalers and the operators. So when I would talk to some of the operators that are here today and talk about your skill set, did you bring your resume?
I know I didn't.
Oh, okay.
But I can get it.
There you go. Well, I think there's some opportunities for you for sure. I think we had a question in the back there. There we go.
Yeah, so my question is, with the amount of people retiring in the field in data centers and with the increased construction that's happening, more so, how many candidates are you guys looking to expand to or hire within the Valley? And just kind of for me, what part of that would be like around cybersecurity and just making sure like all the infrastructure is, secured?
So the way that it typically works for some of the bigger builds is you hire and staff up, as you're doing your first building, and you might add some incremental staff as you're planning your next however many more you're going to do. But it's not as if whatever you hired for your first building, you're doubling that for your second, tripling that for your third. It doesn't work that way. So once you kind of have your initial staff up, you're just incrementally increasing that staff. And one thing that I've seen in this valley, with all the time that I spent at Intel, there's a different scale that happens here with a data center versus something like a semiconductor plant, where, on that campus on any given day, we might have had 2,000 or 3,000 people working. And also, I think the highest construction worker count I saw on one day was 14,000. So massive operation, and when they do hiring, large-scale hiring, you're talking, we went through a period there where we were doing 50 people a week, every week for something like 60 weeks. The data center hiring is a bit smaller than that, a bit smaller in scale, and once you staff up for your first project or your first building, you only incrementally increase it. But where the more hiring comes from is as more entire campuses are announced. So, okay, you have your Mesa campus, and then maybe there's an announcement for whatever company that you're building, Mesa campus number 2, or Queen Creek campus number 1, or, Glendale, or whatever. That's where now you're definitely going to have another batch of hiring that's needed, and those are some of your best chances. And then, of course, there's all of the third-party and colo operators, like Chris and the folks with the line. They're building like crazy, and they need folks. So the opportunities do abound, but if you were to go to any individual hyperscaler's website and say, hey, what do you have for Mesa or Glendale or whatever city that hyperscaler is operating in, you might not see as many positions as you think you would based on what I've said here today, but it's very nuanced the way the hiring works for a campus build out.
The opportunities, though, maybe not necessarily in the Valley, will be innumerable as we have the wave of retiring workforce. Like there will be so many open positions for anyone that wants the interest.
Yeah, it's really hard to put a number on it. We actually did some calculations based upon megawatts in the valley, and that's how we came up with a few thousand positions that are new positions. But then there's always the ones that are retiring and people leaving the industry. So there's thousands of positions available. Just they can say that quickly and easily because of just the megawatts and the growth of the city. So what do you do? Is there something specifically? I heard you mention cybersecurity. Is that what you're doing at school?
Yeah, so a lot of my fundamentals that I'm trying to revolve around right now is learning Linux, Red Hat, Fedora, just trying to daily drive Ubuntu and just getting my foundation set up, essentially.
Yeah, there's definitely roles available at most any hyperscaler for that, but it's handled differently at each employer. They have different ways of handling it. For us, that would typically be more of a remote role, or it would be a role where there's a few of those folks that are hired to handle some of the networking issues for the local cluster here, maybe our metro that we've built, so maybe 2 or 3 campuses, and that person or a group of 3 or 4 people would handle a lot of the network issues that may pop up for that that region of data centers.
And all those things you just named apply to several other roles in the data center industry, so don't be dead set on cyber. You can still get your foot in the door in some other capacity and work your way into it. Are we out of time?
Yeah, I think we're out of time here.
I've-
We'll take the one last question I think he had up here right next to him. So what was right there, right there. There we go, real quick, and then we'll wrap up.
All right. Mine was relatively similar. I noticed you mentioned Linux as one of the requested skills, and I was wondering if that is exclusively for system administration or if it can be applied to other aspects of the data center.
So, some of that, most of that does apply to the data center technician role, what I was kind of alluding to before with the server operations side of the house. Data center operations, largely, there may be one or two folks that are fluent in Linux and have to run, SQL queries for some of our control servers. But largely, the data center operations, no, we're not going to be fluent with Linux. Correct.
Yeah.
Talk about that just. And we got one more question,
One more.
and
We'll break for lunch.
We'll
Yep.
kind of wrap up. Linux. So like, what do you?
It's like, is everyone hungry?
Yeah.
So Linux for sure, especially in cybersecurity. So I always think of cybersecurity as like onions. I'm pulling onions off a layer, right? And I'm gonna keep building, right? I gotta know how to program. I gotta know how to network, right? These are the layers you kind of want to pull. But I know with Linux, you can do so much. It's open source, right? And depends on what distro you want to use. So I would.
It's a Linux-based script for some of the networking.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So, it depends on like what the build is, but a lot of it will be Linux. So having those scripts and understanding that type of administration, just working with Linux in general, you can work with Windows, different types of operating systems depending on what you work with. But I would say start with Linux, work with that, and also, literally work with other operating systems as well. But stick with Linux.
Yeah. All right, we'll do a last question and we'll wrap up for lunch.
All right, so knowing how these data centers operate, how can we advocate for our communities and teach them about the pros and cons about these centers?
Great question.
That's a fantastic question, and that's coming up more and more as data centers start getting into the even kitchen table talk at regular houses, across the country and across the world. And yeah, I do think that a lot of the employers are trying to, have campaigns to kind of educate about what we might be doing to offset some of this. And that's a whole, we don't have enough time to get into that conversation about where all that goes. But I can use my Mesa campus as an example of something that we are allowed to publicly talk about. Is that we are completely air-cooled, so we use no water at my campus at all. And I know that water is one of the big talks about, oh my God, another data center is going in here. Look at the water usage. I'm not a fan of this. So more and more and more of data centers, especially on a hyperscale, are moving toward air-cooled, which is going to save massive amounts of water, especially in a desert. And that's just one of many things that we could talk on and on about, but there is a massive push within the industry to make sure that we're doing this as sustainably as we can. There is a cost benefit. We're all using this technology. We're even using this technology to complain about this technology, on forums and things like that. So it's a very interesting question, but we are definitely, the industry, I'm not speaking on behalf of my employer, the industry is definitely making these pushes. And I like the fact that we're not using any water. The only water being used on my campus is for toilets and sinks and washing hands and typical office space stuff. So I think that's pretty cool.
Great question. Great. Thank you, guys. We're wrapping up, and just appreciate everyone coming out today. A great opportunity to share our insights. I appreciate the panel here, Brandon and Matt. Thank you so much.
We've got food out there, so please, there should be plenty. Sandwiches and some of that. So grab something, come back in, and thank you all for coming.
Thanks, everybody.
Hey, if you're a data center professional, I would ask that you eat your lunch at a table with some students. Let them, do a little lunch and learn, lunch and talk. It's definitely a good time to ask good questions. And there's also over 1.2 million